joining us live. We'll have some extra stuff for you here in a little bit. I'm looking down at the bottom of the screen. So friends, what you're seeing on your screen, and if you could unspotlight me because I am not necessary for this next little bit, you have your panel that's going to talk about barriers. What we'll do is very similar to the morning session. If you all could turn your videos on, because I know my panelists are looking at a gallery view. And I know for me, when I'm talking about these kinds of things, if I can look into a fellow human being's eyes, it allows that connection to occur, which can happen in this form. Okay, that is the stall that I'm going to do. We're at 35 participants. Panelists, you know the order that you're going in. I will help as needed. But everyone, could we give a welcoming round of applause to our barriers panelists? Over to you, my friends.
Great. I'll start. So who am I? I'm a medical general officer, a Gold Star daughter, committed to removing barriers for those we serve. In 2009, shortly after we incorporated small group discussions into our annual training, a question was asked if anyone in the group had ever had suicide as a potential solution to a particular life program. As a group commander, I remember watching as almost all of the hands went up. After a pause, one of our senior airmen came over to me and gave me a hug and said, "Don't worry, Colonel Bannister, that was super low on my list of priorities or options." Similar sentiments were shared by other members, along with a comment that still holds special in my heart. "We're telling you the truth because we know you care." I remember being caught off guard by the willingness to share, which led me to reflect on how our senior leaders, including me, approach life problems. Our peer group shrinks significantly, and our supervisors are often not present in our day-to-day activities. During that time period in my career, I was in the process of a relatively ugly divorce. I had 2 young girls, and I was trying to balance command and being a mom all by myself. I realized self-imposed internal barriers kept me from reaching out. I also realized as a medical group commander, barriers expanded well beyond access to care, and that as leaders, we needed to find a way to reach further to create a culture of help seeking. Shortly after, I did decide to see a counselor, and although it was a short-term counseling session, the time spent with somebody I could freely share my vulnerabilities with moved me past that pent-up guilt and that blame that I had inside of my heart. And I was finally able to stop hurting a little, it took a while, and move towards my next chapter. That time also helped me understand the importance of trust within our Air Force and Space Force family with respect to breaking down barriers, even those we inflict on ourselves. That experience led me to a new level of leadership, one where I became more willing to share stories that I hadn't ever shared, stories about losing my dad as a child, which is why I started with me being a Gold Star daughter. It matters a lot to me. That experience helped me to share what was inside of me. And I knew that by talking about my vulnerabilities, it didn't make me weaker, but rather made me stronger and hopefully touched other people to make them more willing about sharing their stories.
Thank you.
Always hard to talk about, but again, lots of incredible stories in the panel that I'm going to sit in, and I'd like them to share more of theirs, and I'm really proud of them for being so strong.
I'm Captain Teresa Gathers. I'm a prior enlisted security forces commander that has dealt with MST, DV, combat trauma, several traumatic losses, and the fear of taking my own life, which just happened over the past month and a half. So I'm going to speak on the barriers to help seeking from a personal standpoint and from a lot of peers and subordinates and leaders that have talked to me about this in the past. So I think it's very important that when we go forward with this initiative, we actually look into outsourcing some of our resources. And I say that because there's a lot of good resources out there, such as EMDR, prolonged exposure, and it's more of short-term therapy that's very beneficial if it's done in a block of time. So I actually just got out of an intensive outpatient treatment program for veterans in Atlanta, Georgia, and it really saved my life. I have an amazing support system. My unit's phenomenal. My leadership's phenomenal. But myself, needed to do something for me because I continuously live for other people. So I say that because I had an experience going to mental health just recently where I asked to see a civilian therapist, and I already looked up this person. I interviewed them. I knew that they were a good match for what I needed specifically. And it was like mental health got offended that I wanted to go somewhere outside the military. And I've heard that story from a lot of people, people in my unit, friends, and I think that maybe that might be very isolated to many people, but I think the openness to seek out resources for individuals is going to be very beneficial about what they share and they come forward with. Because for me, I've seen more therapists than I can even name in my entire life. And I've only had 3 that I've really been able to reach out to and share my trauma with. So aside from that, for me, being a military officer in a command position, I'm not comfortable going to a military officer that I could be sitting in the same room with in a professional capacity and share my trauma with them, or maybe even the struggles. And I say that because I think one thing that would be a game changer for that is if we didn't necessarily know what people's ranks were, and kind of like a lot of medical staff, they wear like scrubs. I think that'd be very beneficial because I know I've had feedback from airmen where they didn't feel comfortable going in and talking to a captain or a major or lieutenant colonel. Aside from that, preventative maintenance. I tell my guys that you need to take care of your body like you take care of your car, right? So you get oil changes and you get 30,000 mile checks, 60,000 mile checks. So why do we not do that with our body? We might not have severe mental health issues across the board, but the fact of the matter is we go to the dentist for annual exams and when our teeth hurt, right? We don't wait till our tooth falls out and rots or something of that sense. And I take that very seriously when it comes to mental health. The other aspect is contradictory statements from people around you, right? So mental health seeking is a buzzword right now in the military, where a lot of people are saying it because they feel like it's being forced down their throat, or because we're starting to do these initiatives where we can really, really make a difference. And there needs to be follow through with that. Not only say it, but show it. It's okay to get help. My guys know I went to the IOP and they know a lot of my trauma that's occurred with me, and that's opened them up to seek mental health themselves. Lastly, this isn't going to happen overnight. I'm a huge part of this initiative team, specifically with Defender and OSI specific items, but we've had decades of being institutionalized to believe it was not okay to get physical and mental health. So we got to be patient with this process and understand that it's going to take maybe years to decades to unravel all the stuff that we've been taught within our career, even in society, right? Because this is also a stigma in society. I know I just went on forever, so I'm going to cut myself off. I appreciate your time. You can look me up in the Global if you ever need anything. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christine Haslam. I'm a retired Master Sergeant. And I'm going to share more of a story with you. So I am an airman, maintainer, leader, mother, and veteran. I've experienced sexual assault, sexual harassment, anxiety attacks, depression, and PTSD. My story isn't one incident. It's a career of unhealthy behaviors and expectations due to the culture in my field. I didn't realize the impact of these events and the pressures until after I retired in 2014. I joined in 1994 and was sexually assaulted within 6 months of arriving at my first duty station. Being a young airman in maintenance, I didn't speak up or seek help out of shame. Following a sexual harassment incident when I was a senior airman, I attempted to go up my chain of command and was told to get over it. I went to what was then social actions, and the result was I was removed from my chain of command and none of my coworkers would talk to me. I did not seek mental health assistance at that time because leadership had convinced me that it was my fault. This had a long-term impact on how I handled inappropriate behaviors in the years to come and how I viewed myself. While working at Tessel, I was told that women belonged in the kitchen. These types of comments were an everyday occurrence. I had now totally been convinced that this is how it was in maintenance. I believed that my only option was to deal with it. While I was a staff and tech, I was one of the guys. I listened to the truck talk and said nothing. I didn't feel like I had a voice. I was afraid that if I spoke up, I would again be ostracized. In order to seek help, I would have to make appointments during the duty day and the flying window. I didn't feel like there was a way to do this without alerting my supervision. I was afraid that if I went to mental health, I would be put on a waiver, non-deployable, or have my line badge taken. Shortly after I made Master Sergeant, I was sexually assaulted by a chief, and I didn't say anything. I was ashamed. He was in a position of power, and who would believe me? And again, I didn't seek any help. Shortly before retirement, I had my first anxiety attack. It was triggered at the wing stand-up. I was briefing on my triple impound safety investigation aircraft, and I couldn't catch my breath. After the meeting, I went to the ER. Come to find out later, this was my first panic attack. The doctors told me that nothing was wrong and sent me back to work. So I didn't seek help. After my retirement, when the constant pressure was gone, I was diagnosed with PTSD and general anxiety disorder. I sought treatment, and I'm now a clinical therapist. The barriers I faced in seeking help with my mental health were shame, fear of not being accepted, fear of losing my security clearance and my line badge, appearing weak, the stigma of going to mental health, and an overall hopelessness that things would change in the military. And that is my story.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JB Lind. I'm a husband, dual military, responsible brother, advocate with imposter syndrome, stubborn, humanitarian philanthropist, advisor, and last but not least, fallible. This is an incredibly complicated story to share, but I'll do my best in less than 3 minutes. Make note if you can relate to some of the barriers that you may notice when I tell this story. Years ago, an airman was hurt at work, and this set into motion another tragedy that would shape my life from that point forward. To make that long story short, my brother, Senior Airman James Henry Lynn, jumped from a bridge in Yuba City, California, and drowned in the Yuba River. I'm going to focus less on what his situation was and more on how I struggled to cope with the responsibility and the barriers that I faced to get myself back on track after that incident. Losing someone unexpectedly from what feels like unnatural causes while going through a divorce put me in a mental state that I still can't describe. Almost like I became a barrier to my own health. I was in upgrade training for air traffic and in my final block at that time, my final block of training. I took 2 weeks of leave to bury my brother, and upon returning, I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I could focus enough. I opened up, I told my chief controller about how I felt. Basically, I told her what was going on, and she asked me, quote, "Don't you feel like you are playing the victim?" End quote. What little respect I had for her disappeared. I felt my career was threatened if I started training again, and also if I didn't. That trapped feeling began a deeper mental health descent. Because if I wasn't alone before, I am now. And I was overwhelmed. But I didn't give up on myself, luckily. Why? And I ask myself this question all the time: why does the Air Force promote these people? Something to think about. I discovered an organization called Warrior Soul, a nonprofit located in Lincoln, California, that helps people deal with loss by building their resilience to intrusive thoughts and teaching you how to cope with negative life events and memories. I use what I learned at Warrior Soul in my everyday life. But here's the catch. I visited the flight dock and asked for a referral, and they told me it would take me off flying status. So then I had to weigh my options at that point. So I'm looking at an undetermined amount of time, and based on another comment I overheard the tower supervision saying, he's not going to make it. I decided not to pursue the referral, and I refused the mental health clinic because the chief controller was demanding it. Therefore, it felt like a trap. And at this point, I don't trust anything that this person's telling me. I desperately wanted the help, and I knew I needed it. I felt so responsible for my brother's death that I started risking my own life in daily activities like running. I would try to beat cars when crossing busy streets, et cetera, stuff like that. Luckily, I was pretty quick, so I'm here with you guys today. I didn't want to die. I just felt like I didn't deserve to live, like I lost my purpose. Instead of allowing my supervision to determine how I got help, I felt they were simply checking a box. And so I coordinated with the nonprofit and used someone else's couples referral. So they do couples counseling too, and I just fit into a category. And let's be honest about this right now, it was charity. They just took me in. I got lucky, really. But I got better each week, and I like to think that I'm here today with purpose because I didn't give up, and I maneuvered around the healthcare system and the supervision and all the other barriers in order to survive. So thank you all for being here today. That's my story. J-Dub, back to you.
Friends, something happens magical when we open our hearts and our mouths and we share that perspective that we're coming from. For this next part of the activity, just for a moment, if you can turn your video cameras on, I want the panelists to see what's about to happen. I promise this will take less than 30 seconds. So for those of you watching today, just do us a favor. And if a story you heard resonated, whether that's you personally or with a memory you have, just lean in and smile at us or somehow let us know that you're with these 4 people. And then I'm going to ask for a gift. Will you give the 4 a gift? At the bottom of your Zoom screen is an icon called reactions. And if you click reactions off to the right, there's a 3 dots. Will you just send the reaction of choice that you have for those 4 beautiful souls who shared their story? So friends, this is what you've created in less than 20 minutes. I'm often surprised, though it's becoming less of a shock, when at the end of a session like this, someone will say something like, I can't believe people are sharing this deeply. In fact, cover your camera very quickly if you can't believe people are sharing this deeply. Cover your cameras. Panelists, do you see how many people are surprised? I'm wondering what would happen if more of our airmen and guardians knew that we were walking around with maybe some of what they're walking around with. So how do we find out what we are walking around with? Next to that reactions icon is another icon at the bottom of your screen called chat. Will you all please activate that now? Click chat. What we're going to do next is we're going to touch the pulse of the attendees today. Yes, they are brave. And I have a hope, a dream that you are too. It's about 1300 Eastern. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite all of you, and in Zoom and in Facebook, those of you watching live, you're about to see a link. If you need help, let one of your activators know. I need everyone to please click that Mentimeter link, panelists included. I'm going to go do this too. And you've got about 6.5 minutes left. And over the next 6.5 minutes, my invitation to each one of us is to search inside ourselves. Let yourself see your writing that's going to show up anonymously for all of us. Friends, I'm going to ask you to turn your cameras back on at 13:06 Eastern. So let's have everybody reach over, click the stop video icon. This makes it so that we're not staring at you while you're thinking. It also gives you a little bit of a break of what's been called Zoom fatigue. Friends, it's 13:01. We will see you back at 13:06. Please stop video, fill out the Mentimeter. We'll come right back.
clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue sky. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
And a very gentle yet abrupt welcome back, everybody. And thank you for spending a little bit of time in that reflection, but also the production. So as you're coming back in, if you would please click the start video option, do the awkward Zoom wave hello. That lets us know that you're seen and we can see you. Fantastic. So now we have an opportunity. You've heard from 4 panelists. There were quite a few of you who demonstrated in a visual that you were a little, it wasn't surprised, interested, aware that we're being what we would call vulnerable. What I've done is I've dropped the results into the chat. I'm also going to push results at various times during your breakouts. So friends, it is 13:07 by the time you get into group breakouts. You're going to be there for just 10 minutes. Quick cover your camera. Who has been in a breakout room in a Zoom meeting ever in their careers? All right. Here's what's going to help. If you'll click start video, if you can, you'll get into a small group. the discussion prompt is going to start. I'm going to give our panelists a moment to share with us if there was a starting point of the conversation that you would like those 4 people to begin talking about for 10 minutes. I'm wondering if one of our panelists would go from their heart. What starting point would you challenge these small groups to start discussing?
This is Sharon Bannister. You know, I challenge you to say, what are you scared of? I think so many people, I still believe in my heart, our biggest barrier is ourselves. So what are you scared of? What are your vulnerabilities?
Ma'am, I thank you for that. I also just want to double down. What you shared is what they said. Very close to as many people who say supervisors are a barrier is themselves. Friends, you have the challenge. I know Air and Space Force, you're up for it. Smile if you're ready to go meet 3 or 4 other people that you may not know and share your challenges. Wave, and we're going to send you into your rooms. Goodbye. For our panelists, we're not done. Right now, we have people from all over the world watching live on YouTube and on Facebook. And the recording of this obviously will be available. I'm wondering, I'm going to show one of these responses. There's one special one that I was interested in. Hands on. So we asked people what they thought was on the other side of practicing help seeking. I'm wondering if the 3 of you, 4 of you have a message. What do you see on the other side of this?
Sir, mine is the one that says a new appreciation for life, the ability to feel positive emotions for the first time in my life, and a new purpose. Because before going through that treatment, I didn't realize I've never had the ability to feel positive emotions physiologically.
Yeah, and I don't see mine on there, but mine was just, you feel like a weight is lifted off you when you finally are able to talk about something. I don't know how to explain it other than it's too much for one person. And sometimes when you share, you feel like you're able to let somebody else get that big weight off of their bodies as well.
Yeah, for me, it's a future. It's purpose again. For me, it was because I lost it. But like, you know, on the other side, it was just moving forward. You know, it was back to me. Progress.
When we see an airman or guardian, we ask them how they are and they lie to us. What do? What are the responses, right? The response at the gate, another day in paradise, right? We're at Minot.
So since I am security forces and the commander of security forces at my installation, I know right away when they're just saying that to get me to go on with my life. And I actually want to share a story. Our vice wing commander contacted me when I was TDY to Langley just last week and said, "Hey, Teresa, are you on base? I just ran into so-and-so at the gate. They don't seem like their self. I just wanted to reach out and let you know that since you aren't here." So right away, I contact the flight chief and he goes, "Ma'am, he had a death in his family. He wanted to work because that would help him. But he let us know that it is now time for him to go handle his business." So we relieved him. So I'm very appreciative of our vice wing commander for noticing, for one, right? But 2, for reaching out for my awareness since I was not there physically.
You know, I think maybe the question could be flipped. I would say as leaders and everybody in our group is a leader at their level, how often do we say, how are you doing, and wait for the answer? And I remember being a young captain, people are like, how was your weekend? And I mean, by the time you would have ever even been able to say anything, they were gone. They were so far down the hall. So if you don't have time to stop and actually talk to somebody, don't ask them a question. I just think that we can do better. And if you really go eye to eye with our airmen and guardians and talk to them, it's amazing what they'll tell you if you really act like you care what their response is going to be.
I'll wait, JB.
Oh, sorry, you're waiting for me. I'm very direct, so I will ask, and I do wait. And I've got some airmen that are or have been in the past going through through stuff, and I'll look at their tone, I look at their body language, and I can tell when there's something off. And I think my supervision does that for me as well. And that's a really big indicator for me. It's body language. You can tell when something's off a little bit. So I take the extra time if I notice that. That's my trigger. Like, I'm gonna check on that. And I try to get them out of, to speak if they want to without being so forceful, because I don't like that myself. Just depends. And when they're ready, they know that I'm available. They can talk to me. And I ensure that if they need something, that I can cover for them or do something for them so that they can go and do that. And once they realize that they can do that, they'll take advantage of it when they need to. And then they start to realize, okay, hey, he really does care. And that's something that's important to me.
I think sometimes even without them looking at you, so my chief, the other day, it was in March. So my dad was shot down over Laos 3 days before my 6th birthday. And I was maybe not being as perky as I normally am. And my chief goes, every year you get this way. You just need to know. And she came and gave me a hug, which was a big deal for her because with COVID, she doesn't like to get very close. But, she recognized something in me that I didn't recognize in myself. And I think the closer we can get in the Air Force and Space Force, you don't work for the Air Force, you're in the Air Force. And so it becomes part of who you are. And I think we do have to realize we're each other's family. And for some, it's the only family they have. So being willing to speak up and be okay if somebody tells you you're a little bit off too goes a long way.
And like JB said, when I was a flight chief, I was very direct with my airmen and the guys in the unit. I actually found that with a little poking and prodding, they would be open to talking to me because I was very different. I had a very different approach from the other supervisors in the unit.
Tell us a little bit about that other approach, since you kind of set us up for it.
Oh, well, first of all, I'm female, so I wasn't the stoic, master sergeant or senior master sergeant that was so scary. I did yell a lot, but not so much that the guys wouldn't talk to me. But I think that coming from a place of genuine caring and the guys knowing that I 100% would go to bat for them come hell or high water, and knowing that if I said that, no, we have to do this, or, they would know that I did everything that I could. And, when my guys were having personal problems, I would send them home, or, trouble with their wife, I would let them go home and take care of it. You're a danger to me on the flight line if you're not in the game 100%. So I would let them go. I would let them handle their personal stuff and come back. And they always did. They always did.
They say that there's only a few constants in a human's experience. You know what the other two are, but the big one is change. And one of the comments that we hear in this human domain of leadership There comes a time in a leader's life where knowing the operational day to day becomes secondary to knowing the human and the heart behind or under the uniform, whether it's one of these that us silly folks get to wear or the uniform that you wear to work every day. I've heard that caring does not scale. I'm wondering what you hear when you hear that. I wonder how does, I'm running the assumption it does, because we're here today. We care, we carved time out of our day for a new initiative that would stood up at Corona. This morning, we had Chiefs Toberman and Bass talk about the FFIT and how it's coming from a ground up. But how does what you're talking about scale? How does caring scale?
Sir, I want to speak on that. So my commander's philosophy is care plus accountability equals mission success. Specifically in my career field over the years, I have noticed that if you value people, this seems like it's common sense, but it's not. If you value people, actually care enough to know some things about them personally and hold people accountable in your unit, the mission success will be probably the highest you'll ever see. And I say that because I, for one, am someone that has a one-on-one with every single person in my unit, not only when I first get to the unit or I start supervising someone, but every time I have a conversation with them. And I'm also someone that's super direct. And it's funny because some people think I coddle my unit, but if you ask any of my defenders if I coddle them, I'm pretty sure they'll say the complete opposite. So, I mean, you can't replicate caring, legitimately caring for someone with treating them as a number. That's not a thing. So that's what we need to change.
You'll notice that your Zoom screen, if you're in gallery view, is beginning to fill up again. And for those of you on video, as you come back, please do the awkward Zoom wave hello. As soon as people, because now I've got 30 seconds left in the breakouts and people are going to wait me out because they wish they had more time. Those of you who are coming back now, you're like, done with that conversation. Let me get back to safety. For those of you who are joining us, how many of you looked at some of the results from that Mentimeter? Just cover your camera for me if you looked at some of those results. So we're going to make these available, not just to the panel, because I know you're going to continue working this line of effort far beyond just today. But as we bring everybody back, I've got my first little activity. Oh, it's fantastic. Look at the smiles. People coming back on screen. I'm in gallery view. So let's do this one. Would you all please reach down to the reactions tab? Will you send a reaction to the members of the group that you were just in? And members of your group, look for what your member just sent to you. So here we are, virtually connecting. Who knew that you could do that? So friends, we've got 4 minutes left for this part of day one of the FFIT Symposium. And what I know is, and I'm going to ask you all to go to the chat. What I know is that some of you are sitting with something, a thought, a feeling, a sense. Can I get all of you in the chat to type these words? Because of that conversation. Because of that conversation. Now what we're going to do is we're all going to type for 30 seconds. Wait to press enter. Some of you already wanted to press enter. Wait. And I'm going to take 30 seconds for you to type the rest of that comment. Because of that conversation. Keep on typing. In about 15 seconds, we're all going to press enter simultaneously. Give me a wink, a smile, or a head nod if you are done typing. Let me just do a quick assessment here. All right, now what's going to happen? I'm going to count down from 3. You're all going to press enter. And then you're going to take 30 seconds to read what your peers added. 3, 2, 1. You can scroll up through chat. Please take another 25 seconds. Our panelists have been preparing for hours for these 45 minutes. And I'm gonna put them on the spot. For the 4 panelists, I'm wondering, what one thing did you see just show up in chat you were not expecting, or you are at your core delighted you saw? We're gonna have time for 2 of you to share. Who would like to go next?
I can start. So because of that conversation, I realized there's a need to train supervisors on this topic. I think it's so, so important. A lot of times I'll see my younger NCOs saying, oh, they're trying to get out of work, or they're making these comments that are assumptions. And it's that brand new, that I'm not trying to call anyone else, especially like where I'm at now or anything like that, but I've seen it in the past. Brand new supervisors finally have the reins, have that authority, and then it's like airman's going through something, but well, I got through it, or I'm doing fine. Why are you struggling with this? And it's that attitude. It's like, we got to take care of people to get them where they need to go. We need to work harder on getting them to where you are. And maybe it's they're going through something you didn't go through, or maybe you handled it better, but we can still get them to where you are because they're worth it. And having that mindset to me is super, super important. So I'm really glad I saw that.
Let me ask everyone to send a reaction to JB, and I'm looking at the clock. We have about a minute. Is there one more from our panel that you're glad you saw? Christine, take it away.
Yeah, because of that conversation, I can help my maintainers get the help they deserve. That is huge. That is huge. Knowing and being able to identify when the people that you're working with every day have a need, because they aren't always going to come out and say it. They aren't always going to know that they have a need. And because now you may recognize that, or you're more aware of it, that these people now can get the help and have a better experience than we did. That is why we're here. That is what this is about.
Friends, the Air Force, the Space Force, the DAF is delighted you're here. I would be remiss if I did not get out of here without a vacation family photo. So here we go. Can I get everyone to turn on their cameras? Because when was the last time you went on vacation and had too many pictures with everybody in it? And what you're gonna do is on 3, you're gonna click your favorite reaction, then you're gonna smile, and then I'm gonna take a photo. This will give a moment for everybody to turn the cameras off. Okay, down, find the reactions tab. Click your fave reaction. 3, 2, 1. Now you need to look up at the camera and give us your smile. Friends, thank you for being here this afternoon. That was a very quick 45 minutes of a topic that is near and dear to everyone's heart. We thank you for being here. On behalf of the FFIT Symposium admin team, thank you, panelists. We're going to get you your Mentimeter results subsequent to this program. For everyone else, you are on a 8.5-minute break, and we will come back together. I need to look at my clock here at 13:35 Eastern time. 13:35 Eastern. On your way out, if you want to wave goodbye, if you want to take a break from the camera. And for our next panel, we'll get you over into the green room momentarily. Thank you, friends. right, Wayne, are you good to go if I get these groups going?
Waiting to go into the green room, sir.
Stand by. I'm even gonna rename the darn thing. All right, turn off the timer, turn off the countdown. And all right, who's on the panel? We got Mark, Siren, Rudy, correct? Hey, good to see you. All right. Green room. And Wayne, can you click on the breakouts tab down at the bottom there and just join it? Dan, are you driving? You're not going to a breakout, correct?
I don't know. I'm just here for the party.
I love you. All right.
You do, man.
Get you to the green room.
Thank you, Jada. I appreciate you for the opportunity.
Okay. What do they say? It's a small Air Force, my friend.
It sure is. I keep running into you, even if I don't want to.
They're always glad later. All right. Chief, I am scrolling through here to get you into the right group. Hey, Dan, will you hit stop video for just a bit as we got new people rolling in? Just want to make sure that everyone knows they're in the right spot. Love you, man. Thanks. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening for those of you who are joining us or you have been with us. So I'm going to move my Zoom to start video. So if you all want to do that. Hi, Nita. Hey, John. John, thank you for being here. You're here all day, man. You're all in. Liz, wonderful to see you. Lindsay, you knew the last panel. All right, I'm out of names. I love you all. Here's the deal. We have 40 wonderful humans on the other side of cameras all over the place. So if you can, go ahead and start video, because in a moment, we're going to invite our next panel on confidentiality to come on. For those of you just joining us, let me just do a quick check. Cover your camera if you are just joining us right now for this session, have not been with us for the first part of the day. And if you're not on video, I can't see you are covering your camera. So that's on you. Hey, friends, it is 13:35. In just a moment, you're going to see a few more faces, new faces to some of us. This panel is a special to the panelists' heart. We know that what you are managing, what you are thinking, what you're coming into this session with is only going to add to the conversation. So in just a moment, as I get my panelists to come over, I think I should just close the room on them. Yep, here they come. All right, friends. Pen, paper, water, whatever else you need as we get into the afternoon. Well, welcome. Right now, what's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and spotlight our panelists. I've got a whole team who is helping me with this. So we've got Chief there. How do I add a spotlight? Siren, I've got you. Strike, I believe I am doing this one. Stand by, friends. Is it only letting me do one spotlight at a time? Hey, friends, for sake of time, let me get everybody to click View Gallery View.
So we're resetting them. I'm going to pull them into the screen room, or would you rather do it so I don't mess up your stuff, JW?
If you can add them to Spotlight, I'm having a tough time adding individuals one at a time. Can you?
I can from JJ's computer. Will you move FFIT team over into the green room?
Yeah,
So we
JW, it's going to be us in the FFIT team room. Okay, exit. I'm leaving them.
Hey, will everyone reach down to the reactions tab and send a reaction to our next panelist so their heart rate goes down a little bit? All right, so FFIT team, I'm going to attempt to spotlight you. Siren, I'm going to add your spotlight. I'm going to find I just want all of you to try to manage a whole bunch of airmen and guardians nonsense in one day. Okay, Chief, I got you. Who am I missing? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is fantastic. Now in the room, I need somebody at the podium to click gallery view because Strike and JJ, I want you to be able to see all those beautiful faces. For Chief and Siren, you are either looking at you three or you're in view gallery. Personally, I love to see all of the faces. It lets me come in just a little bit closer and know that there's a human on the other side of that camera. Folks, as per the operating principles for today, we're going to hand the microphone over to the panelists. They're going to share themselves, whether they use their 10-word introduction or other way. And then they're going to share a story of why this topic is so important to them. And for those of you joining us in Facebook and YouTube, welcome to the confidentiality panel. Chief, we're going to start with you, sir.
Mr. Womack, thank you. Hey, teammates, good afternoon. I'm Chief Master Sergeant Rudy Gomez, 826 Senior Enlisted Advisor. 10 words that describe me: father, husband, son, brother, neighbor, fly fisherman, leader, / follower, that's one word, and a listener with a bias towards action. And lastly, Chief. My story is that of many of other airmen. And after 21 years of service, this topic is extremely important to me. So I want to tell you a little bit more than just 10 words. I'm the airman who didn't know that it was okay to be okay. I'm the airman that with chronic pain and ailment who has endured without getting help and or establishing plan. I'm the airman that has burned out. I'm the airman that's been overwhelmed. I'm the airman who has failed and experienced setbacks. I'm the airman that's been depressed, lonely, with anxiety and stress. I'm the airman that was too tough or embarrassed to ask for help. I'm the airman that's had to overcome cultural barriers to seek help. No matter our rank, as humans, we are all trying to get through something. I look forward to today's engagement.
Thank you, Chief. I believe, Strike, we're going over to you, my friend.
Hey, JW, can you hear us okay in here?
Loud and clear.
All right. So I'm Lieutenant Colonel Angelina Stevens. I go by Strike. I'm an airman. I'm a maintainer. I'm dual mill. I'm a mother of two. I'm a T-ball coach who has experienced chronic pain from injury, infertility and miscarriage, severe postpartum depression and anxiety, intrusive thoughts, and suicidal ideations. And a bit of my story, I'll add to the list, voice loss from planning a symposium, so I apologize for that in advance. Suicide was a part of my Air Force journey long before I suffered my own mental illness. I had been in several circumstances the first person to respond to the room where it happened. I had been the last conversation before it happened, and I had been on the other end of the phone line when the person walked in and found the aftermath. And I knew what it looked like long before I experienced what it felt like. And I still didn't recognize what was happening within my own mind and what was going on with myself for the year that I experienced suicidal ideations after I had my son. And I let the stigmas keep me from reaching out and getting help or describing what was going on with me. And those included the impact. I was going to be a commander. What would the stigma be? What would people think of a commander who had had that kind of experience? Of my husband, who's a fighter pilot and has a community very heavy with stigma, and what they might think based on our experience, because it was very difficult on both of us. And I realized it actually took me until I was a commander to realize I wasn't practicing what I preach, because I was getting people to help and I was encouraging people to seek help, but I had never gotten help for what I went through. I went to one appointment and I walked away and I didn't answer most of the questions honestly, because I was scared, it was hard, and I never went back until I was a commander. I always had that Rocky mentality that you've got to just take the punches and get back up. And I didn't realize that it was hurting me. It was physically harming me, and it was destructive towards my life, my family, and myself as a leader. And I shared my story afterwards and realized my maintenance community had been walking that road alongside me. And many people shared their stories with me of surviving a suicide attempt and suicidal ideations and being through very traumatic things that they never got help for the duration of their career. So this is very important to me because I realized as a commander, I didn't have the tools to help myself. I didn't have the tools to help my airmen in many circumstances to get them that safe space to get help. And it's something that I take very seriously as I move forward wearing the uniform. I'll pass it over to Siren.
Thank you, Strike. Thank you, Doc. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Mahan. I go by Siren. I'm a Navy wife, a mom, total force. I'm an aviator. I'm a weightlifter and a lover of food. I suffer from anxiety. I've had postpartum depression, traumatic stress. I've been sexually assaulted and faced sexual discrimination. My story is one where when I got commissioned and I went to flight school, I automatically knew that my place was flying under the radar, and that's how I was going to survive. That as on the outside, physically, I am a strong woman, but I lost my voice for years and years because I felt that I needed to blend in because of the environment that I was in, that I was only chosen based on the fact that they needed more diversity and more gender representation. I had to fight my way to prove to everyone else that I actually earned and I deserve to be there with everybody else in the room and at the table. When I was in flight school, I was sexually assaulted. And like I said, I lost my voice because I thought that if I said anything, No one would believe me, and it would ruin my career. Later on, suffering from all that, I never felt that I could tell anybody because of the mental health issues that happened because of that event. Because now I'm a flyer, and that's been my dream. And I was going to give up mental health so I could reach that dream. Why can't it be both? Why can't I be mentally healthy and pursue my dream? And then I had a TSSCI clearance. And if I sought help, was I going to lose that clearance? I don't know. But to me, the answer felt yes. So instead of unpacking things and becoming healthier and stronger, and a good example to the airmen below me, I kept packing it in, and I packed my suitcase so full that it was busting at the seams. I know now that that is not the right answer. So that's why I'm here to help change that stigma, that person that lost their voice. I want to help them find their voice, because people on this team have helped me find my voice again. Over.
JJ, gonna pass the mic to you, my man.
Thank you, Doctor. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Jason J.J. Johnson. I am an ISR airman currently working at the Pentagon. 10 words to describe myself is leader, follower, introvert, geek, can't be an intel guy without being a geek, athlete, empathetic, curious, grateful, mentor, and American airman for life. So I'm a prior service officer, and I've been in the Air Force, and I've been very grateful to be in the Air Force my entire adult life. And I have recently had two things that really struck me as to the condition of our mental welfare, the state of our mental welfare for our airmen and guardian today. So as I became more senior in rank, a lot of the friends that I had that I was enlisted with started to retire. And as I started going to more and more of those retirement ceremonies of senior NCOs, it wasn't until they actually took off the uniform that they were comfortable being vulnerable enough to share with me just the rucksack of grief and sorrow that they carried with them throughout their entire career. Most of the people I work with all had clearances, so it's something that people did not share. So that struck me. And then a few years after that, I went down to Air Command and Staff College. I had the great fortune to be selected by my peers to be the vice president of the class. So we had 500 on paper rock star majors who had done great things, experiencing almost 20 years of war, and have now at a PME situation. And one of my jobs was the care and feeding of the morale of my fellow brothers and sisters in arms. And it was at that time period when we had multiple suicide attempts, and we had multiple individuals who really had strong suicidal ideations. And we also lost in 06 of the Air War College above us, that I realized that we were in a very detrimental state for our welfare. What I also realized is that there was a deep sense of disconnection from the people who were suffering and from what they felt like we were systemically doing to help them. And so at that point, I became very, very involved and wanted to be able to be involved in the stories of those individuals. Because what I realized is at the end of the day, what we all possess is the ability to connect to other individuals. And sometimes, and most of the times in my experience, people aren't looking for solutions, but they just want to connect to someone else so that they can be heard. So this is why I'm here. This is why I'm part of FIT, and I'm happy to share stories further later on today. Thank you.
To our dear panelists, please accept on behalf of everyone here today and everyone who will benefit from this later on. I've asked this question several times today, but I think it deserves repeating. Will you smile or just nod? How many of you are a little surprised by the level of sharing that you're hearing through your computer or your headphones today? And I'm wondering, how many times do we need to hear this kind of sharing before it becomes normal? As far as I can count, we've got 6 so far today. I say let's keep the momentum growing. Now, this next part of the activity is where we all get to press the pause button. You know, PME, it really rewards thought response. The instructor says something and then quickly a student wants to say something in return. We're going to slow things down. So can I get you all to lean forward and activate the chat there in Zoom? And what we're going to do is you're going to share. You're going to let this FFIT team know where you are. Now, the great news about this is we're going to do this anonymously. So first, I need you to stop video in Zoom. So go ahead, reach down or tap on your screen. We're going to stop video. This is so it doesn't feel like we're staring at you while you're thinking and working. It also gives you a moment of reprieve in what's called Zoom fatigue. So my invitation to you is twofold. Number one, stop your video. Give your mental and visual processing brain a break. And then number two, lean in to this Mentimeter. Lean in to these questions. I've been talking for about a minute, which leaves you with about 6. So I'm going to ask you to turn your cameras back on at 13:56 Eastern. Just take a look at your clocks. And when it hits 6, we'll turn our cameras back on. For the FFIT team in the room, if someone could help me in turning off that video, Siren will stop your video and Chief will stop your video. We'll come back on in about 6 minutes. Thank you, friends. Alrighty, friends, as I interrupt that thinking and typing that you have done, I'm looking up at my screen, and for the panelists, in about 4 minutes, we're going to invite individuals to create groups of 4 and have a discussion. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you a couple of the slide results. In fact, everybody can look at these. There's a link in the chat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show one of the results to the panel. I'm going to have you take a moment, and then one at a time, there's a couple of you. What I'd like you to do is just an emergent sharing is going to show up as you look at what is on that screen. So for the benefit of the group, here's what I've been looking at over the past about 5 minutes. And so for our panelists, I'm wondering, is there something on that screen that you're glad someone wrote, or maybe you're surprised that someone put into print? I'm going to put me on mute and let the first person to grab the mic share.
I don't even know. Strikes me, because as crazy as that sounds, I've felt that too. Like, why, how in this day and age do we not know what a safe space look like? So I resonate with that, and I feel for the person that wrote that and everybody else who feels the same way.
I saw so many people just saying, you know, like that somewhere I can get it out, or phrases that just indicate they can't even, you know, be themselves, express themselves, or show themselves without fear of judgment. I saw the word judgment in there several times. And I mean, that's not even, hey, I need help and to reach out. That's that basic existence, but people don't feel safe in that sense. And so to me, it's, if people don't feel safe being their true self, how are they going to feel safe reaching out to get help when something is wrong, or they need, you know, they feel already embarrassed, or like something's wrong with them, like we do when we, you know, are struggling with something like that. How is somebody going to reach out in that circumstance if we haven't created an environment where they feel safe being themselves in the first place?
Chief or JJ, before we go into our next activity, anything stand out about that slide as you see it there emerge in front of you?
JW, one thing, Dr. JW, one of the things that stuck out to me earlier is the one that says, when those around you are empathetic to your struggles and are there to support you or simply be there when needed. And that's something I spoke on earlier, that individuals aren't necessarily looking for a solution, but they're looking to just be heard, and for someone to recognize that they are human in this plane of existence with us at the same time and space. And sometimes that is all you need to do, is be there to listen and provide value to that person's human experience.
Hey, Chief, right before you jump in, I saw you leaning toward. I want to ask the audience a question. If you could turn your cameras on for this one, I need a visual, verbal yes. Who's ever been in a situation where someone has been sharing something with you, and while they were talking, they came up with their own solution? Cover your camera if that has ever happened to you in your careers. And you're sitting there like, wait a minute, all I did was listen and you figured it out? Amazing. Chief, I'm a little concerned. I haven't seen you move.
Chief, I'm a little concerned. I haven't seen you. Mr. Womack, you broke up there slightly, and I'm having a hard time hearing JJ and Colonel Stevens there. But the showing up at oneself, I think, is extremely important here, especially in the generation that we lead. And when you couple it with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's the acceptance, and you see the non-judgment, right? I think as a service, we do great with psychological meaningfulness, i.e., giving you the purpose and the why as it relates to national security. And we do, you know, Tesseract has a program for psychological safety. And I think where we're challenged probably the most as a service is probably psychological availability. And I'm talking about burnout, being overwhelmed, and being able to receive. I think we have large programs in there, but how available are we replenishing?
Thank you so much, Chief. Now it's your turn. In a moment, you're going to find yourself magically transported into a small group of peers. And the invitation is for you to stay in it. I know that once we start those group discussions, they act as a point of departure and you can kind of go off and talk about something. See if you can stay in this theme. What is the most important question? What is the most important treasure to uncover? So it is 14:03 there on the East Coast. I'm going to invite you to all come back in about 10 minutes. And here's the invitation. Once you get into your small groups, lean into the screen. As General Goldfein used to say, squint with your ears and see if you can ask each other a couple of questions back and forth. Can you all see the results link in chat? Has everyone activated that on their other monitor? I will push a couple of slides while you're in breakouts, but your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to lean into the camera and dive into this conversation because of the importance of talking about this topic. We'll see you back in about 11 minutes, friends. If you want to wave goodbye, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, panelists, you are still with me. I want to make sure that I get people to where they need to go. Over there, okay. Over here, Chief. I think we have a choppy connection, but we're going to make it work. Copy that. All right, so here's the deal. They are having an amazing conversation amongst themselves. We are with the YouTube and Facebook communities. So not only are they listening live, they also get this as a recording bonus. This is my technique of getting those who were off in small groups to go back to YouTube and Facebook to see what they missed. So I guess the question that I would want to start with is, as you were preparing for this event, what came up for you that has not yet made it to the screen?
Can you hear me, JW?
Yes, ma'am.
See how many words I have left in my voice. So, I mean, the part of all this that was hard for me is, as we talked about coming up on this panel, right? Confidentiality and protected communications is something I've been talking about for a long time and working with, organizations that are trying to improve those areas. The tough thing is stories, because I know of and have spoken to a lot of human beings that have some incredibly compelling stories as to why this would have changed their lives, or as to where that lack of protected communications let them down. But those aren't circumstances people can share. And so whenever we try to advocate for these issues, especially folks who are younger, still serving, it's really hard to paint the picture because, these people have been through traumatic things or undergoing UCMJ punishment and all these situations where they just need a safe space to make sure they're okay. In most cases, they don't exist unless you've been sexually assaulted. So I had a vision, we had visions for some of these panels, and we wanted to be a lot younger people than us, and you've got, a 2-letter chief and 3 lieutenant colonels, because it's really hard for people to be able to share the stories that are behind this topic. And that one actually gets me a little emotional because I see them and I can think of them, but there are other people's safe spaces that they either weren't able to share, they reached a point of a suicide attempt, et cetera, because they couldn't, because there wasn't a safe space there. So this one cuts close, but it was also really hard. People sending us messages saying, you better talk about, you guys got to, and people are afraid to have this conversation at the level of depth that tells us why it's necessary,
Absolutely. And just to tailgate a little bit on what she said. So we have no shortage of asking for a friend notes that people sent us. Make sure you talk about this and make sure you talk about that. And as I prepare for this, I put it on my hat because in a couple of months, I'm going to do what Strike previously did. I'm going to be a commander and I'm going to be in charge of 350 airmen's lives and their families. That's the, responsibility I'm going to assume. And they're all intelligence airmen. And I've been an intelligence airman my entire career. One thing I realized is that you can't do your job without having a clearance. And so because of that, when you find yourself in a space where you need to ask for help, you usually don't, just because you don't want to have career implications. So for me, I think that if I wanted to make sure that I was, had a bumper sticker, that I think is important for us to get those other individuals into this room to realize that the goal is not to ruin careers, but to protect airmen, right? So that's what you create when you have that safe space, you protect airmen. And it's also important for leadership to have maximum transparency for whatever career implications someone may or may not have. There's nothing worse than, someone thinking that, oh, if I do this, this is going to happen, because there's not enough transparency from the top saying, okay, if you take these actions to take care of yourself, you don't have to necessarily worry about losing your career. So I think that for us to have that maximum transparency and just do a better job of having better, more transparent and just accurate environment for psychological safety, I think that allows us to bring more people into conversations like this. Over.
I think for me, one of the things that's so baffling is, as an operator, and JJ, you too, and maybe Chief, Strike, anybody that uses SIPRNet, we have protected comms. When we go in the jet, we use have quick, or we push green to talk secure. Like it's what we do in our weapon system. Well, guess what the highest valued weapon system is in the military? You, us. It's the people. It's not the iron. I mean, yes, the iron is very important, but without this weapon system, that iron weapon system isn't going to work. And if we are so protective about our communications when we're in the iron, we need to be the same way with this weapon system too. And that includes that judgment piece that Strike was talking about. And as humans, I think we are naturally judgy creatures, where we like to make a judgment or find a solution for somebody when they talk to us. But we really have to step away from that and be really good listeners, and not try to fix it while people are talking to us. Actually listen to them without coming up with a conclusion before they are even finished with their sentence. We need to train this weapon system to be to have more trust and be better communicators, so we can get that mental health where it needs to be in our force. So we need to work on those heart powers. We have hard power, soft power. Let's work on that heart power.
Chief, before I get over to you, partner.
I'll piggyback off of Siren right there really quickly. And, we are capability oriented as the Air Force, but, the human weapon system is the best weapon system. But what we do a lot for our platforms is preventative maintenance. And we have to accept that all of us need preventative maintenance. And I'll give you the simple look. The chaplain will come up with a retreat or a family counseling or something. And I'll be, we have to model that behavior as leaders and raise our hands like, hey, sign up me and the spouse for a spouse retreat. But, oh, is the chief having issues with the spouse? It's like, no. But we need to do preventive maintenance on each other before it all falls apart. And we need to engage on that. Often get asked, it's like, hey, chief, what keeps you up at night? And truly what keeps me up at night is connecting airmen to resources. There's an exceptional amount of, and hasn't come up yet, but are we doing the best? Are we connecting our human weapon system to that preventative maintenance, to the resources available throughout our enterprise at speed and at need, just the way we engage the adversary and our day-to-day task.
For those of you watching in Facebook and YouTube, even as a recording, I'm going to put you to the test. And if you'll lean into the comments down below this video, in the Air Force, in the Space Force, in the DoD, I guess the first question is, are there people who, if we talk to, they have to hold confidentiality? So there's that question out there. And I'm going to show a survey result here, and I'm going to ask my panel, any one of you can take a look at this one. But I've been to a lot of these trainings. I have to go to these annual trainings, and they remind me that there are people that I can talk to that have to hold confidentiality. And so here is the survey result. Would you feel more comfortable going to mental health or another helping resource if you were able to confidentially speak to someone? And of 29 respondents, 29 people said yes. Panelists, what are your thoughts?
JW, this one doesn't surprise me, but yeah. So when we started having conversations about some sort of protected communications for like a peer support member, like we have for victim advocates, the biggest answer I got back was that we'd be increasing risk because people wouldn't go get help. They'd just go to that peer supporter. And again, that's the hardest story to tell, right? So when I look at this, again, when I told some of my story, there were hundreds of people that reached out to me and told me they went an entire career. All these maintainers, old crusty maintainers and people I'd worked with went an entire career and didn't get help because it didn't feel safe enough. And I look at this and I think of that and I go, okay, you know, if they had that peer supporter, we are decreasing risk. We are getting them, it is a bridge to support if we do this right, and people are afraid of it. But that number doesn't surprise me because that's what I see, but somehow people don't believe that that's the case. They think it's scary because it's mental health, and they don't want to provide that because they think it's going to put something in a space where somebody's going to be triggered more because they're not with a medic, you know. And that one's hard for me because, yeah, I get pretty fired up on that one because what I see matches that stat you just pulled up.
Yeah, I would add, Mr. Womack, that yes, and we need more of it. How do we actualize it? If it's yes, then what barriers do we have? What policy, what processes are preventing us from connecting to that resource overall? What stands in our way to bring that out of 29 respondents, all yeses? What stands in our way to actualize that? And we need to start there.
So I did a little research and I wrote down from the 2011 Defense Center of Excellence paper, the key ingredients to peer support. And it's social support, experiential knowledge. So having been there, done that, trust, I think is huge, confidentiality, number 4, and then easy access. I think those 5 points really nail it, especially that confidentiality part. Like we need that to then have trust. And the rest kind of fall in line. Over.
So to our panelists, the YouTube and Facebook sharing is now going to be joined by folks who are leaving their small group breakouts. And if they keep their cameras on, look at their faces. I always love watching people's faces when they come in from the breakouts because I can get a cool sense of how that last 10 minutes was. And for those of you just joining us from the breakouts, welcome back. You know the battle rhythm. So let me get you all to reach down to the bottom of your Zoom screen. Will you please send a reaction to the small group of humans you just spent 10 minutes with? I know that you're now trying to go through to find new reactions, but panelists, I don't know if you can see a gallery view, but this is what happened when we just had 10 minutes. Now, this over to the left, everybody, there's another icon called chat. I'm going to challenge you all to put into one single word, what you're leaving that small group discussion with. You had 11 minutes with some friends. I'm going to ask you to put into one single word. As soon as you click enter, I invite you to look up and down the chat window to see what your peers wrote. All right, folks, we've got about 3.5 minutes left together in this configuration of people. Let me do this. There's a couple of groups that some of you talked about what the panelists shared. Cover your camera if you talked about what the panelists shared? Who are you? I'm not going to call on you. I just need to know if anybody did so I can change my next question that I'm going to ask. There's a couple of you that shared a story that has either been a recent or one that you had not shared. Who shared a story that was recent or they had not shared? So what we know about these kinds of meetups, you struck gold. You took an entire context building activity, hearing from 4 panelists share where they're coming from and their perspectives. You talked with a group of people. Is going to stay. Earlier this morning, a question was posed to the chiefs, Chief Bass and Chief Toberman, and someone asked, what makes I'm going to invite you, go back and look at the YouTube recording to see what Chief Bass said about what makes this different. As we start to close our day, I'm going to ask our panelists to share in about one breath, what does the FFIT opportunity mean to you as you reflect on what you saw emerge in the chat window from our peers? What does the FFIT opportunity mean to you as you see what's in the chat window? Of the panelists, someone would like to go first.
I'll go. I feel hope because I think if we keep working together on this stuff, we can make a difference together with these perspectives together.
JW, for me, I think I would say empowerment, because everyone here chose to be here today to be part of this conversation, and that in itself is empowering.
FFIT means to me a chance to find support and be supported, and then in turn take that and maybe make just small changes every day to fortify the force and make it better.
Yeah, I would share also empowering. Every airman's a leader. Valued airmen add value, and every airman counts. And the FFIT program and its initiatives will bring about that.
Friends, as we bring this session to a close, I'll invite you all to lean forward and send a reaction, one last one, to our panelists and to the leader in the camera. If you find yourself and make eye contact with yourself, I truly believe that we are the they that we need. Friends, it is 14:20 there on the East Coast. We will thank our panelists by waving goodbye to them. For everybody who's been here, you've been sitting for a while, so you know what I'm going to ask. Let's do a little body stretch. Let's get a cup of water, do some sit-ups, some push-ups, go do what you need to do there at home so that you can come back. We will begin our next panel discussion. I've got it here at 14:30 Eastern, and that will be holistic wellness. Bring your pen, bring your paper. We will see you back here in about 10 minutes, friends. Panelists, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Go FIT team. Nice job with the burpees.
Wow.
All right, friends, good afternoon. Could still be good morning for those of us catching up on the Pacific side of things, and then good evening for those of us who are coming in from overseas. Welcome back, friends. It's about 14:30. In a moment, you're going to see a whole bunch of videos show up right in front of you. If you don't mind reaching across and clicking that start video button, that will let us see you and you see one another. If you do the awkward Zoom wave hello, that way that everyone can see that your video works and that we got you. In a moment, you're going to see 4 new folks come up on screen, although some of you will know one or more of our next panelists. So next up, we're going to talk about holistic wellness. The battle rhythm, very similar to what you have seen throughout the day. I do have a quick question for those of you with your videos on. How many of you, this is the first session of the day 1 symposium that you are attending? Just cover your camera for me if this is the first session that you're attending. Got it. So welcome. We're delighted you're here. A couple of things to note. We're going to be using the reactions tab on the bottom of your screen. We'll be using the chat tab on the bottom of your screen. But what's more important is we need to spotlight our guests. So can I get the team over there to help me start to spotlight? I'm going to add a spotlight. Okay, hold on a second. You know what? I'm not going to touch things. I'm going to ask the team to spotlight. Hey, folks, as we get people who are coming up on your screen, if you click the View tab and Speaker View, that will allow you to see the individuals that come up one at a time. And for the FIT admin team, is there anything that I need to be doing to get their spotlights up? Folks, you're seeing the behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. All right, attempt 2. Let me get everybody, please, to click on the reactions tab down in the bottom. Let's send a reaction to the 4 panelists who are coming in for us today. Fantastic. Okay, now we are cooking with gas. So folks, this is the holistic wellness panel. In a moment, you'll start to see our panelists appear. We're going to start off with, I'm just going to call you Janelle because your titles are way awesome and even more awesome. So Janelle, we'll put the mic on you. We've got 10 words to introduce yourself and then some story about why this and why now. Ma'am, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Womack. I appreciate the introduction and I'm really excited to be here with my panelists. My words, veteran, wife, mother, speaker, leader, and recovering perfectionist. Service is a calling for me, and my purpose is to help others achieve peak performance with a focus on passion, purpose, and presence. So I hope to bring some of that to you today. I think my story is relatable. I spent 20 years in the Air Force as a pilot, a commander, leading teams, leading people. And what I found was that it was hard. And when I got to go back to school to study a big problem, I was burnt out. I was overwhelmed. I was overworked. And I think many of us, maybe I'm inside your head right now with a narrative that would say things like, well, as soon as I'm done with this degree, I will finally start taking care of myself. Or as soon as I'm done with this command position, I will finally pay attention to my family. When in the end, it just would snowball into more events and more milestones and more deals inside my head. And in the meantime, I was very successful in my career, but I was missing something because I was not joyful. I forgot how to laugh. I lost sight of the love that was right in front of me, and I was no longer thriving. I was just surviving through my career. And what I noticed is that it wasn't just me, it was my peers. It was the people that I led. A lot of us struggled in this way. And so my work led me to study and research the human weapon system, how we can build the most effective human weapon system to not only accelerate our professional success, but not have to sacrifice our health and our relationships in the process. And I think this idea of holistic health really boils down for me into studying and really training three different things as human beings: our body, our craft, and our mind. And the one gap we have significantly is the training of our mind. It is something that we have not as a military really focused on. And I think if we're looking at holistic health, we do need to be proactive in what I call mental prehab, doing and studying the difficult things and the mental space so that we can be more prepared for the challenges that are in front of us. If COVID taught us anything, is that uncertainty is everywhere, and stress is actually a perceived emotion. So if we can manage that, it's better. And then some of the research that has led me to prove that these things work is in the mental space of mental skills improve our working memory capacity. They prepare us for doing difficult and challenging things in stressful environments. They can decrease our perceived emotions around stress. It can also improve our ability to be a high performer, especially under high pressure situations. So I think it's really necessary for us in a performance way, as well as a resilience and building mental strength way, to do these types of skill sets and not just give them lip service, but deliberately and intentionally practice them on a regular basis. So that's what I would love to see brought to the Fortify the Force initiative and this idea of holistic wellness.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to turn the microphone over to Kelly. It is all you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with my 10 words: human, spouse, mother, former infertility warrior, adjunct professor, clinical exercise physiologist, trauma-sensitive yoga instructor, health promotion advocate, lifelong learner, and a nature lover. So I have personally felt and witnessed in others the impact of this military Air Force lifestyle and how it can take into consideration and challenge our mental health. And so I've experienced this within the last 6 years, but I chose to focus on the intensity of the last 2 specifically while living here in the interior of Alaska. In a short period of time, our community was diminished, and for some of us, our purpose as a collective stress took over the world. Our military members and their families were comfortable with a certain level of uncertainty. I often joked at the very beginning of the pandemic with my spouse, thinking, pandemic, we have this. We're so used to this roller coaster ebbing and flowing. We can be the leaders at this difficult time. But I was wrong to some extent. So it caused me to deeply reflect on the coping skills that I was seeing and doing in those early days. The need of our community to have stress relief coping tools was no more abundant than in that first initial time frame of the lockdown period. I found myself suddenly homeschooling 3 small children, teaching 3 undergraduate classes, which was a high caseload for me at that time, altering my live yoga classes onto an unknown virtual platform, holding space for the stress of all those around me, from spouse to kiddos to friends, and just preparing for the unknown. It was stressful, tiring, and my body felt it in multiple ways: lack of sleep, multiple migraines, poor eating, just feeling unhealthy at the whole onset. At a certain point, I realized I needed to take control of what I had control of. And for me, that was my yoga practice. The mat was calling, as it always did in tough times. It was calling with a need for balance, breath work, movement, mantra, affirmation, and meditation, all of which were not easy to fit into this chaotic time. But whether it was 5 minutes or 30, I felt more like me the more I did more of it. And I was better prepared to deal with whatever came next, whatever shoe was going to drop. And this is why I personally want to help bring these coping tools to a larger table of discussion for our FIT platform today, as a way to empower others to find the self-regulation habits that fit best for them and allow them to thrive amidst the roller coaster of life and this unique military lifestyle. Thank you.
Next up, ready for you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am a Black woman, mental health technician, dancer, sound healer, fitness coach, aspiring dance therapist who has dealt with depression, anxiety, and chronic insomnia. So I started my career as a 1-0 intelligence analyst. And about 2 years in, that's when the ish hit the fan. I remember thinking one day as I was driving to or from work, I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if anyone would care if I got in an accident or ran off the road. And I remember one day I came to work and my supervisor who was an amazing individual and he escorted me to the mental health clinic. And I remember him practically forcing me out of the door. I can laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny back then. And he was really the catalyst for me beginning treatment in conjunction with the airman resilience team that I had at Langley. And my therapist, who happened to also be prior Air Force, we came up with a crisis plan, and I still keep a copy of it. And the handwriting is kind of terrible, but on the bottom here, it basically asks you to identify different activities that you can take part in if your symptoms become overwhelming. So I had here, now it's kind of hard to see, but I have here salsa dancing, working out, and volunteer work. And surprisingly enough, that has stuck even after all this time, almost a decade. And so there are 3 vital things that I've maintained as part of maintaining my mental health. So of course, I wanted to also share that with others. So I've been a dancer most of my life. And during my treatment process, I started dancing again more heavily after being away from it for some time. And I still credit it to changing my life to the direction it's in right now. I remember thinking to myself one day when I was home, I remember thinking, I wonder if there's a such thing as dance therapy. And it turns out there was such a thing. And I literally remember my life changed in that moment. And I said, I have to do this. And more importantly, I have to share this with other service members, veterans, retirees, anyone that would listen to me for 5 minutes. I wanted to share that with them. And then it also led me to retrain from intelligence to mental health. And that was how it got me closer to doing what I set out to do. In my studies as a dance therapist, dance movement therapist, the full title, I discovered how the creative arts, it not only helps you to improve your mental health, but it improves other areas of your life. You can build confidence. It helps you be a more mindful leader. It helps you be a more creative thinker. It's not just thinking outside of the box, it's taking the box and turning it into a boat. It can help you do so many things in your life. But most importantly, I feel that the creative arts helps you feel more connected, because there's nothing worse when you're in the darkest moments of your life than feeling alone. And I hope that one day that creative arts in the military will help bring people together, help them to enhance their mental health and resiliency, and to help them be together on their journeys, because this is a journey for all of us. No matter what your separation date is, we're all on this journey together. And I want to end with a quote by Roy T. Bennett that I absolutely love. It says, "Learn to light a candle in the darkest moments of someone's life. Be the light that helps others see. It is what gives life its deepest significance." And that is why I'm here today.
All right, team, I guess it's my go. I am Chris, Tech Surgeon Duplessis, and my 10 words are anxious right now, a mother, a giver, an introvert, an empath, and an advocate. I've been dealing with being a single mom with a special needs child. I've dealt with sexual abuse as a kid and in my career, grief and depression. So a little bit of my story is I came from a really broken home, and my dad left when I was really young, and my mom was a single mom of 3, and she was always working. So a family member, when my older sister, who's 11 years older, left, started doing things to me that he was doing to her, and no one ever spoke about it until we were all adults. And it never really bothered me until later in life when I realized, oh man, that happened to me, and it was kind of weird, but to be that advocate, because when I did come of age to understand that stuff as an adult and see it happening to me full circle, I'm able to
speak up for myself and for others to make sure that that never happens again. I even got somebody deported from Afghanistan, a TCN, because of speaking up and making sure that that doesn't happen to anyone else. But I am an athlete. I love doing anything that can get me moving. I hate being in the house, but also I love being in the house. It's my safe space, and it's where I go to be with myself. And I think that's very important for the holistic part, is to learn how to be with yourself and how to love yourself, and what that looks like for you. For me, it's doing my makeup or my nails, or just laying on the floor, listening to music if I'm having either an anxiety attack or if I'm feeling depression. With my daughter being special needs, I was a single mom basically my whole career. So my mom quit her job, moved in with me, and became my dependent for about 10 years. And I did end up getting married to another SF member. I'm security forces by trade. And he's been gone almost our whole marriage, 3 years. We lived in separate houses because of the military and deployments and everything like that. So our separation kind of just put me right back in the single mom mode. And my mom passed away last year from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I had been so resilient, dealing with being a female in security forces, and, oh, you only got the job because you're pretty or whatever, and trying to like change that stigma and be the strong female and be that person for my troops and the people around me. There was the point where when my mom passed away, I couldn't do anything anymore. And that's when I was like, man, you always preach for everybody else to go get help and take a knee. And it was time for me to do that for myself. And so this past year, I've been very deliberate about mindfulness, meditation, saying no to people. And I have a very high stress job. I'm a command chief exec, so I'm always on the go doing a lot of things, and not taking work home, and being with my daughter, who now I homeschool because the school system's failing us, and dealing with the special needs issues. So this FFIT is for all of us who maybe it's, one piece of this story, one piece of that story, but this is the segue to changing the culture that we need in our Department of the Air Force and Space Force. So thank you.
To our dear panelists, I'm going to ask the 4 of you a favor. Will you click on your Zoom screen up in the top right? It says view, and then go to the gallery view. Hold on. For everyone in Zoom, please reach down to the reactions tab. Will you please send a reaction to our panelists? I want them to see how much we can share through the virtual realm. I'm left wondering what you all heard, not from what they said, but what's present from and inside of you. And so this next activity, I'm going to ask you to activate the chat box that's just to the left of those reactions. By the way, panelists, I hope you see all these hearts. Those are for you 4. Here's the beginning of what I'm going to ask you to finish. Wait to hit enter for 30 seconds. I want everybody, panelists, you're included, please. I want everybody to take 30 seconds. We're all going to hit enter at the same time, so wait for another 30 seconds. But I'm curious what would show up if you typed, I don't know, maybe 2 sentences. Here's the beginning. I'm more me when I. Will you all take 30 seconds and type? We're all going to hit enter at the same time. All right, give me a little head nod when you're ready to hit enter. I'll look around the screen. I'll look for some north, south. All righty, so here we go. On 3, we're all going to hit enter at the same time. 3, 2, 1, go. And now I need everyone to take the next 60 seconds and please read what they wrote. And when you see one that you resonate with, I want you to type that person's name and hit enter. You are in gallery view like I always operate in the Zoom world. I figure if I'm walking into an audience, I'll be able to see multiple faces at one time. So why don't I do that here in Zoom as well? There are 3 connections that we are talking about today that we'll be continuing to talk about when it comes to holistic wellness. Of course, the first connection is to self. The second connection is to one another. Cover your camera for me if you're surprised at how many people are connected to something you wrote. Who kind of can't believe that someone wrote their name in like they did? We did that fast. That's what happens when we connect together. And then there's this third one, which is connection to mission and purpose. And so the next part of this activity, we're going to spend about 6 minutes. You're all in chat, so you're about to see a new Mentimeter link. For those of you who are just joining us for the afternoon, I'm going to invite everyone to go ahead and click on that Mentimeter link and stop their Zoom camera. And I'll explain as we go through. So friends, it is about 14:51. We're going to spend, I think it's going to take you about 5 minutes, one song. It's going to take you about 5 minutes. And over those 5 minutes, with the video off, I want you to see yourself in the words you type. Let yourself respond to the prompts that are there. We'll turn our videos back on at 14:56. What this does is it allows you to not be watched while you're working. I'm going to turn my video off. Let's turn our videos back on in about 4.5 minutes. Thank you, friends.
You'll be looking up at me when it's over. I live for the battle. for my attitude, working through the patience. Money comes and goes, so the M is for motivation. Gotta stay consistent, the P is to persevere. The I is for integrity, innovative career. The O is optimistic, open and never shut. And the N is necessary, cause I'm never giving up. See, they ask me how I did it, I just did it from the heart. Crushing the competition, been doing it from the start. They say that every champion is all about his principles. Carry.
Hello, friends. So if the Zoom screen is behind this web page, you can flip-flop. Down the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you'll see that little start video. On behalf of all the panelists for all day long, I do want to say thank you. This kind of a pulse check, it's immeasurable. Getting to hear from people who have carved time out of their day, who have found a way to get your boss to let you, encourage you, support you, maybe even demand that you show up for this. We are thankful. So I'm going to show one of the pages of results. In fact, if you look in the chat, here's all the results. But for our panelists, I'm going to show one page. And what I'm going to ask you to do, and we've got about 2.5 minutes to figure this out. I want to send people into a breakout with a challenge for a discussion topic. Let me show you one of the screens. This is one of the results from what we've just collected. And this was to the question that says, when you hear holistic wellness, describe what it means to you. And so for our panelists, as you take a look at that, what comes forward for you? What are you glad you see? What's missing? Start to think about a challenge that we could give folks as they head towards their breakout rooms. Janelle, over to you, ma'am.
Yes. So my initial inclination, just because I've worked with thousands of airmen, thousands of service members, is that this is more of an ideal, not a reality. And so my question would be, what are the barriers for most people in making a focus on holistic wellness a reality in their lives? Because I think we all can spout the rhetoric. Like, I want to provide self-care. I want to be more mindful. I want to be complete. I want to have positive and not maladaptive coping to the stress and adversity I face. But I think the reality is that that's not how we live our lives. So my question would be, what are the barriers you see in your life that you can potentially work to remove so then you can make this a reality?
I'm going to ask for support. Can I get someone in the room to type that question in chat for later reference? Anita, I see that your hand has been raised up in the air. My friend.
A suggestion would be early intervention, teaching psychoeducation to military members as they enter into the military. So like a recruiter, how they have to prepare an individual for boot camp, maybe providing that psychoeducation portion, whether it's a half a day or a whole day. I know it's comes down always to funding and what the Department of Defense is willing to pay for. But, you know, each individual comes from different environmental backgrounds, different constructs. So being able to teach individuals exactly what psychoeducation is. I know coping skills and coping mechanisms don't take away problems or safety planning, but it allows the individual to set themselves up for success with opportunities on how to have that personal well-being. So I feel that early intervention and providing preventative measures and mental health maintenance is important to assist with the holistic approach, because when you give people information, they're willing to take that information and see how they can work with it.
Thank you, my friend. From our panelists, anything else? We got time for one more. Anything else from this screen that you would like to offer as a challenge for that discussion that Anita has encouraged us to continue?
I'd like to ask for you to think about what it looks like for you. Like I said, for me, it's sitting down doing my hair and makeup or nails or whatever. What would that look like for you? Is that reading the first 15 minutes of every day or whatever it is? What does that look like for you?
Can somebody drop that question into the chat for me? Thank you very much. Okay, my friends, you have full access to all of the responses from this amazing group of more than 40 friends. In a moment, you're going to find yourself in a small group. If possible, if you could start the video for that small discussion, it'd be really nice to be able to see one another. Panelists, you're going to stay behind with me. For those of you watching in YouTube or Facebook, we're going to continue the conversation with the panelists. For those of you who are about to find yourself in a small group Zoom room, you have two possible questions that you could dive into. Everybody take a look around the gallery view. I wonder who you're going to be in a group with. All right, wave goodbye. We'll see you soon. Okay, you four. I'm curious, as you were thinking about putting today together for this group of people, prepared remarks, wrote those down, read them beautifully. What'd you leave out? What have we not heard from you today?
Do you want me to go first?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Or whoever. You can go ahead.
I left out the fact that I'm still kind of dealing with those issues, but for a different reason. As I'm transitioning out of active duty service into the National Guard, it was a decision I really didn't want to have to make. I wasn't kicked out or anything, but honorably, everything like that. But it just wasn't a planned thing that I wanted to do, but I knew that it was the right thing. So I'm still kind of dealing with the fallout of that. So that's what I left out.
I'm going to come back to you, Che, because I'm not done with you. Janelle, hit that mute button.
We can keep going with her. I'm interested.
I'm going to give her a moment to think. I'm going to let her stew in it. This is how I operate. That's awesome. Yeah. People hate it during it, but they love it later.
Love it later. No, I would say, I mean, I left out a lot. You know, I teach 8-hour workshops on this stuff, but I'm going to save one of my stories for the end. But I think one other point to emphasize just in this group and this whole Fortify the Force is that what I have found in my research and my personal experience is that this is a leadership problem. And I really do think that it can be fixed through leadership as well. And I've demonstrated that through some of the research I've collected. Leadership matters in respect to behaviors, in respect to how you lead your life. And I will tell you that when I ask most young people, so I'm talking like captains at SOS, because I've done quite a few bits of work there, or like our young airmen. If you ask them, do you want to be a chief someday? Do you want to be a commander someday? Most of the time, the answer is, I would love those jobs, but I hate the life that comes with it. That is our retention problem. That is our readiness problem. That is why it's a leadership problem, because we reward the leaders who work all day Saturday, work all day Sunday, never see their families, who never take care of themselves, but they put in all that effort, right? Because that is valued. In fact, I call it competitive stress is what we value in our culture today. The busier I am, or the more things that are on my plate, therefore, I'm more valued by the organization I belong to. And there's research behind that as well. So I think that is what, we could have a whole seminar just on that, but that's what I didn't get to in my initial comments, is that's the other piece that I think is missing. Not only do we need to train our minds and focus in this space, but then have the leadership emphasis so that we change the way leadership looks. We want people to want to be us. That is, I think, part of the solution.
Chris and Kelly, I'm coming for you in a moment. So Shay, you left out more than you chose to tell me of the one that you left out. Why'd you choose that one?
Because it's something I'm dealing with at the present moment. I'm officially out of active duty on May 20th. And as every minute, every day, it gets closer and closer. And I'm trying to kind of sit with the fear and uncertainty that comes with it, learning to sit with the uncertainty and approach it with grace. And that's one of the things I'm really working on right now. As I'm learning to be able to help others, I'm really learning how to help myself, because this is a really difficult time, even whether it was planned, unplanned. So that's why I picked that one.
When I look up at the screen, when people come back, there's going to be this shocked look of, oh my gosh, we're actually talking about this right now. And so I always love to give the opportunity to folks to dig in. I often think about how far away is the thing that I'm talking about, and I'm trying to get it as close as possible. That one was really close, my friend. Chris or Kelly, what'd you leave out? Who wants to go next?
Can go if that's okay, Chris. I think the thing that I left out is sort of the connection of what the last 2 years, just being a more stressful time in history, and kind of looking at yourself and reflecting that self-study, is that the consistency that's needed with some of these coping things. And I think, I see it from that exercise world. Well, I don't have a minute to work out, or I don't have a whole half hour or a whole hour to dedicate to me today, so I'm just not going to do my workout, or insert whatever. So sometimes I think people don't see the value in like little snacks that can be given in sort of these healthy coping techniques and things. And just like with anything else, right? If we don't use it, we lose it. So sort of continuing to train our bodies, whether it's the 1 to 5 minutes we have each day, and then doing more when we can, and just being more consistent with it. Because that's one thing from this past experience that I've done more consistently. And while we're all human and it's still life and things still get to you and there's still anxious moments, it has a little bit, it's easier to rebound. It's easier to go and be resilient, if you will, and to get through some of those tougher times a little bit more easily than you would otherwise, versus going into kind of as deep as you would go before, maybe down the rabbit hole. That's probably what I left out.
Yeah, do those last 2 sentences, but change the pronoun.
So I don't remember what I just said.
I have to do all the work for you.
Huh?
I have to do all the work for you. You kept saying what you need to do, what you need to do. I asked you what you left out. Tell me
I
why.
left out that connection. I left out
when right? You should it all over me, my friend. You told me what I should do. Why is that present for you?
Do you know? I don't know. I would never should. I hope I didn't. But if I did, I'm sorry. I guess just creating space for myself and making it a daily practice, I think, was something that I've done more within the last 2 years in that experience that has brought me to a better state with dealing with stress.
Did y'all catch how different that last 2 sentences was? That was beautiful. Chris, your turn.
So I left out two things similar to what Shay and Janelle were touching on. Janelle, I call that the pressure to perform, because I always feel pressured to perform, and I want to be the best, and I want to lead the right way and be that example for everybody to do everything. And, you know, single mom, best airman, great wife, friend, you name it. I want to do it all, and I want to be the best at everything. And I burn myself out doing those things, right? So that pressure to perform is one thing that I left out, that really, when my mom passed away, that I was just like, you know what, I got to lay off the volunteering. I got to, you know, take time off school right now, maybe just focus, you know, I'm a bodybuilder. So, you know, I stopped competing for a little bit. I just had to really take some time back to myself. And then the other thing that I still struggle with talking about is that I think about getting out the military every single day, because I do have this little girl who needs me, and I am in security forces, and I am going to deploy, and I'm not going to be able to be with her. And it really tugs on me because she doesn't have my mom anymore. So that's something that really bothers me, because I want to be there for her, but I've been in this uniform 13 years. It's a part of who I am now, and I want to give it my all. I want to continue. And that's really hard for me to try and say, oh, well, you know, if I get out, you know, I'll be serving my daughter, but if I get out, I'm not serving where my heart wants to go, because I just want to serve people. So those are the two things that I left out.
Depending on what kind of a computer you have, a Mac or a PC, we will end this panel at 15. So 15:15. The folks are going to come back in about 58 to 75 seconds. When they come back, we need to leave them with a go-do. We need to leave them with a challenge. I'm wondering, do you have a off the cuff, here's the go-do relative to fit and holistic wellness? Jay, saw your hand.
I would say go to your phone, go to the calendar app, and put in an appointment to do something for yourself. Whatever that happens to be. Binge watch SU. That's my go-to thing.
Got it? Janelle?
Put it in there.
That one sounds great. I think we use that one.
Oh no, this is not an either or. This is improv, baby. What else you got? Yes, and.
Oh my, I have a list. Well, I'm a big proponent of creating space with our breath, mindful minutes in particular. So if anyone's seen me speak, they'll know how to do that, but it's really just about connecting and pausing. I call it go to the cloud too. So the go-to is when you find yourself in another stressful moment, or your next stressful moment, which we all know is right around the corner, to think to yourself, go to the cloud. And that means take a step back, take 2 deep breaths, and then respond rather than react to whatever may be stimulating you. And the more you do that, right, the more it becomes that habit pattern. So
100%. All right, friends, look at this. My screen in gallery view has filled up. Let's do our class photo, because you don't get back from a vacation and say, I have too many pictures with everybody in it. So here's the deal. Start your video.
Hey, Captain Spawn. Hey, what's up? How's your weekend?
Start your video and hit mute. Start your video. I need everybody to hover their mouse over the reactions tab. I'm going to count down from 3. We're all going to click on the reaction of choice, and then I'm going to take a photo. So don't click it yet, because it times itself out. You got your videos on, you're ready for the class photo. On 3, 2, 1, reaction. And now I need you to smile towards the camera like you're happy. Our ticket out today is for you to take a look at the chat box. We're going to collect up to 40 suggested go-dos of how we could take holistic wellness into our lives. I've asked the panelists to share theirs. They're going to go ahead and type them in chat. All of you are going to commit to your own. What is something you could do in service of you? Your ticket out today is to drop your go-do into the chat. I've got two things to share about this. If you're still waiting to come up with one, just copy what someone else wrote and paste it as yours. It's not cheating, it's collaborating. Number two, if before you leave for break, you click those three dots next to the chat box, you can save the file. And friends, if there are 36 different options of self-care, you've got 36 months of go-dos. Let's all give one last round of applause to our panelists. Thank you for being here today. If you want to send them another reaction, my goodness, what goodness. On behalf of the entire FIT admin team, I want to do a special thank you to the four of you for showing up today. For everybody else, we are on a 10-minute, as it says in the schedule, interlude, AKA breaky break. So please stand up, do some squats, some push-ups, do some breathing, some yoga, go give someone a hug if they need it or you need it. But we'll see you back here at 15:25 Eastern. Thank you, friends. Wayne, I've got breakout room, green room is ready. For those of you joining us on the panel, at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a little breakout rooms icon. If you'll click that and then join the green room, that would be fantastic. Wayne will get you set up and then I'll probably pop over in just a minute. So glad you are here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who needs help getting to the green room? Cover your camera for me. Bryce, are you seeing Team Joel? Good afternoon, friends. It is about 15:20 there on the East Coast. You can translate that to the time zone you're in. We have our next panel, which will start in just about 5 minutes. So at 15:25, we are due to start with the psychological safety connecting through games and competition. I'm going to head over, work with them in the green room for just a moment. Delighted you're here. Keep everything together. I'll be back in just a couple of moments. For those of you who are joining us in YouTube and Facebook Live, welcome to the next panel discussion. This is around psychological safety using gaming as a way to connect. So for those of you who are joining us through the day, you know the big ask. Go ahead and click that start video option and wave hello to your friends as you've come in. I'm going to wait for a couple of more videos. Hey, I'm going to look away from the camera and at your faces. Who thinks they've actually made a friend today they might stay in touch with as a result of today? Let me just look around. Do I have anybody? Oh, yes, we are winning. So for those of you who have been here for a while, you know what we're going to do. In just a moment, we're going to invite some folks in. We're going to make them the spotlit folks. Remember, in their world, you all are in gallery view. So while you're seeing just the 5 of the panelists, they're looking at as many faces as you will let them see. And I know for me, it is so much easier when I can see faces as I'm working than those little boxes of, I don't know, not even gonna go there. Okay, it is 15:24-ish. We've got a couple of more folks coming in. Let me check with the FIT team. Are you gonna help me getting the spotlights up? And for those of you who are joining us, let me just do a quick check. Who is joining us for the first time today? They have not yet been a part of the panels as we have played. Go ahead and cover your cameras if this is the first time you're joining us for day 1 of the FIT, I should probably say inaugural FFIT Symposium. This is me stalling as we get our panelists spotlit. Okay. We've got one. Stand by, sir. We'll see what happens if we can get the other 4 folks. And yes, the dog never makes it to where they want to be. Hey, folks, please stand by. We are getting these spotlights handled as we speak. All right, folks, as you see these beautiful faces come up on screen, will you please click the reactions tab and let's send them a preemptive reaction for joining us today. As normal, we're going to go in an order that you have decided. So we'll start off with our first volunteer. You've got 10 words to introduce yourself. You've got a little bit of a story about why this and why today. Over to you, friends.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Master Sergeant Jessica Morgan, and I'm in the United States Space Force. I'm a guardian, mother, wife, and friend who has anxiety and PTSD stemming from childhood trauma. As far as I can remember, I've been a gamer, all games really, but more specifically video games. My brother and I would save our allowances to rent a game from the local store, and we would spend the weekends exploring new worlds, solving puzzles, and figuring out how to beat the next boss. To some, this may sound silly, but gaming has always kept me grounded through tough times in life, including keeping me hopeful and optimistic through a difficult and traumatic childhood. Although I have many gaming-related stories, I thought I'd share one that many of us go through and can relate to. I, like many of you, am a parent. My child just hit the 7-month mark last week. After struggling to get pregnant for 1.5 years, I finally saw the lines pop up on the stick and the preparations began. Like most excited new parents, I read everything I could get my hands on and prepared the best way I knew how to be a good mom and do right by my kiddo. I was ready, but my kid wasn't. I ended up going overdue and having to go through a 56-hour induction process that ultimately ended in an unplanned C-section, which is a common yet major abdominal surgery. On the Friday I was discharged from the hospital, I had exactly 2 days of help from my husband before he had to return to work. So here I am in considerable pain from a C-section, unable to get out of bed without literally throwing myself on the ground first, sleep deprived from almost 3 days of trying to give birth, unable to breastfeed, unable to pump, along with no help from friends and family during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, dealing with the rash that developed on my kid from the formula I ultimately had to give him because of my failure to breastfeed, and dealing with all the guilt, shame, and pressure of trying to be a perfect mom and failing, in my opinion, in every measurable way. It was a lot, and I was struggling. Before I was cleared for exercise, I told my husband, look, I'm taking 30 minutes a day after he gets home from work to relax and play some games. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and fired up my favorite game. For 30 minutes, I was able to stop thinking about all my perceived failures. Afterwards, I felt refreshed and more human. I was able to laugh with my friends, and it was really the only safe social interaction I had since giving birth. Eventually, things got better. I started figuring out the whole parenting thing, and I was able to start exercising again, and I returned to work successfully. I couldn't imagine where I would be without gaming because it has been a constant positive in my life. Air Force Gaming in particular is such a wonderful and supportive community, and I feel very fortunate to be able to represent it in some way today. Thanks.
Okay, so I guess that makes it my turn. Hello, everyone. I am Tech Sergeant Douglas Jones. Let me pull my words up here. So I am a retired NCO, a SWO, for those of you who may or may not know what that means, a father, gamer, hobbyist, who suffers from PTSD, anxiety, depression, with suicidal ideations. Rundown of my story, just like Sergeant Morgan, I have been a gamer for as long as I can remember. My father introduced me to role-playing games at a very young age, which is right about the same time the Nintendo started becoming popular, and we got one of those, and I was hooked for life at that point. It became a staple of my life throughout most of my childhood development into when I joined the Air Force, and continued to be a major part of my life, being a thing that allowed me to stay connected with family, friends, and eventually my wife while we were struggling through the somewhat burdensome process of command sponsorship. And it eventually ended up becoming a thing that I attribute greatly to being a part of what saved my life and my career, and what I call the twilight of my career. For those of you who don't know, SWO is a staff weather officer. I was a meteorologist in the Air Force who was assigned to the U.S. Army, supporting the 101st Airborne Division for the last 8 years of my career. During that time, I was frequently deployed, whether it was over to Afghanistan, Europe, or even here in the US, attending month-long major field exercises on somewhat regular and things like that. And it tends to grind you down quickly. Yeah, I see we had a 19th ASOS alum here. We were right next door to you guys. But yes, through the time frame with all the deployments that I saw, while I was never actually involved in direct combat, my role put me into Army operation centers that I saw it all of the time. And it started leaving impacts and things like that. And then when I was home, things weren't really slowing down that much because we were always playing war as well. And eventually it started to lead to breakdowns. You combine that with COVID hitting a couple years ago, and all the disruption to social life and things like that. And then right about the same time, getting news that I was about to go on my third deployment in a 3-year span, things kind of broke down for me to the point where I was at my worst. I was sitting right at about 18 and a half years of my career when I got hit with a medical board. And for those, I mean, I'm sure most of you know how daunting that could be as somebody so late in their career. But gaming, to get to this, gaming was what kind of helped keep me buoyed. Especially the Air Force gaming program. It helped me to find new friends, branch out into new games that I never knew that I would like, and develop and strengthen those societal bonds that you just weren't able to get at that time when everybody was under lockdown. You couldn't go out and do anything. You couldn't hang out with your normal friends. Things like that were the ability to use gaming to connect with people was there to help me stay afloat and get me through that time when I felt like everything was completely falling apart in my life, to the point that there was periods where I was considering suicide and the like. Happy ending for the story, though. I did eventually beat the med board and get to my full 20 years, and glad to continuing to be here today, helping out with how I can, spreading the great word about how helpful this is.
Hey everyone, I am Staff Sergeant Bryce Morello. I'm a husband, a friend, and a community leader. And the things that have made me who I am, I've dealt with childhood abuse, suicide, social anxiety, and depression for most of my life. And as soon as Mike asked me about doing this, I didn't think about the things I went through as I've talked about in the past on different things, but I've thought about the things that I've seen the resiliency of the people that I deal with on a regular basis, and what community within gaming has done for those people. And so, having come from a childhood where I dealt with suicide, there were times where I actually did attempt suicide, and the thing I remember most of those times was how lonely I felt. It was something that was very self-conscious to me all through college. I never felt like I had a best friend. And so coming into adulthood, I developed a community. I'm sure part of it was selfish that I had friends, but I developed a community with the main intent that I didn't want anyone to ever feel alone. And so all sorts of people came in, and you'd call them weird. And I think that a lot of people get a bad rap because you have a lot of practice during like middle school and high school to learn how to talk to people. But if you don't learn that by adulthood, people just won't talk to you, and you'll kind of be ostracized. And so I built this community with the intention of allowing those people to always have a place to go to and always have a place to be. And the way we met and came together was through games, Fall Guys, Among Us, League of Legends, whatever it may be. And one particular friend of mine stands out in the strides she's made. She has been on government assisted living into her 30s now. And she has such bad anxiety, she could not work until a year ago. And within the past year, and the reason this is relevant is because she would always come to us every day and play games with us and tell us about her day, and we would just encourage her every single day. But she would come back, and she's started working a job. She's actually just got her second job. She moved across the country on her own. She has started getting her driver's license. I helped her get a credit card recently, overcome all of this stuff. But the biggest thing is ever since COVID started, because you don't get to be in person as much, I started what we called Face Cam Friday in the community. So every Friday we all hang out, we turn our face cams on. You don't have to, there's no pressure to, but we've gotten more and more people to do it. We get 10 to 15 people every week. And for weeks she'd apologize. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do it. No pressure, nothing. After a year and a half, she did. She turned her camera on, and everyone was super happy for her. And within a few weeks, she was just popping in, not even on Fridays, turning the camera on just to chat with everybody. And every single time was just met with love and support. Just hop on a game and have fun. And yeah, even now she sold her computer so she could move, and she still hops on to come chat with us and turn her camera on and just spend time with us. And I cannot express how proud I am of her and being able to see just how far she's come in just a year. Thank you.
Sergeant Solmiano, let's run a mic check. Is your Bluetooth connected to your awesomeness around your ears? Let's try again. Negative. Hey, will everyone send a reaction so that we can lower the heart rate of our colleague who is attempting to plug?
Hello.
Rock on. Loud and clear.
Sorry.
Good to go, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Affirm.
Hi, my name is Staff Sergeant Somiano. I'm an airman, an innovator, and an immigrant. So when I moved here to the United States 12 years ago, I used games as a gateway to connect with other people. And I had a hard time with connecting with other people because I had English wasn't my first language, and I used games as as a way to connect with other people. And fast forward to a couple years ago, I became involved with Air Force Gaming, and it was a way for me to connect with other airmen and help me improve my interpersonal relationship skills. And this way, I was able to be more confident in talking to people, and it helped me become a better person. And you fast forward to this year I was able to use those interpersonal skills and my experience with gaming and to become part of involved in Spark Tank and just using games as a way to develop our airmen and with developing airmen with games, we were able to become a finalist, and I was able to speak to the Air Force leadership and how we can use games as a way to develop other people, especially our airmen. Thank you.
So I have a lot of time and a lot of effort spent developing myself and improving my mental well-being with gaming. But I'll start with my 10 words. I'm a gamer, I'm a friend. I try to be the rock in some people's lives, something steady for them. I'm prone to anxiety that leaves me, with stomach pains and headaches constantly. I'm emotionally sympathetic, so I'm just a giant sponge. The moment that someone starts tearing up in this chat, I'm going to cry right there with you. And my last 3 words is I try to get stuff done. Replace stuff with an expletive. So I'm not really going to tell my story because I wanted to make sure that these guys' stories were heard and are most impactful. But I'll tell you for my story though, as it relates to Air Force gaming and gaming as a whole, is I thrive on the ability to give people a place where they can connect, they can get out of their own headspace. And if need be, they can do it anonymously. One of the best things about playing video games online, not like this Zoom call where you get to see my name and these other 4 individuals' names because we were forced to put our actual names on the chat, is I could be Doctor Strange, in online video games where I can tell you about my history, my day, and not really feel like that attribution is going to come back to bite me in the butt. So I have that comfort level of knowing that I get to vent just a little bit more and maybe not be so self-conscious about it. And for me, providing that space for airmen and guardians that's what keeps me going. I have a day job that is probably not getting the attention it needs because I'm making sure that my heart and soul gets poured into this program. And so these 4 individuals, their story is shared by so many that it's absolutely incredible. But the best part is gaming, it might be that center point, but these aren't, the crazy competitive gamers. These aren't the folks that are, going out there and trying to stay up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning playing video games, not getting life done. They use it as their escape. They use it as their tool to better themselves, better the other those around them. And I think that's what I'm most proud of for the little community that we've built.
Hey, I'm going to join you all real quick. For those of you in Zoom, can I get everyone please to click the view icon, top left of your screen, and then choose the gallery view. And here's what we're going to do, friends. We're going to take a photo because I've got something cool in mind. So on my screen, I've got the 5 panelists are up on top. So as a game, here's what I need you to do. Just look at the top of your computer like you're looking at our 5 panelists. So I'm going to count down from 3. You're all going to look towards the top like you're looking up at people who are helping us get to where we need to be. 2 and 1. Now I'm going to invite you to open chat. We've been talking a lot using a word or the words game and gaming. In my world of leadership, I often talk about what I call the product of the product, the outcome of the output. So I'm going to invite everybody. We're going to run an exercise for my panelists. Folks have seen this all day long, but it'll be new to them. So let's surprise them by being all excited. I'm going to ask everyone to type for 30 seconds before we hit enter. Panelists, 30 seconds usually turns into like 2 or 3 sentences. It's pretty cool. Friends, here's what I want you to do. I want you to please type the product of the product is? What is the outcome of gaming from what you've heard and from what you came to this session feeling? So you've got 30 seconds. Do not press enter until the end of the 30 seconds. Don't make me call you out. And give us some sentences. Give me 3-4 sentences. I'll be quiet for another 25 seconds. Panelists, you're invited to. One of our jobs in these kinds of positions, we just could consider ourselves all leaders. I kind of think that the people who came to this event today, we get to call ourselves the they that we wish we had. And I'm wondering, when you leave the conversation today, what part of what you're about to see will you take with you? On 3, I'm going to ask us all to hit enter at the same time, and I'll follow with the next direction. 3, 2, 1. And now I need you to take 60 seconds. I want you to read what your peers believe the outcome of gaming is. Okay, towards the right-hand side of that chat pod, there are 3 dots. If you click those 3 dots, this is specifically for the panelists, you can save the chat. If any of our senior leaders wonder why it's important that you do what you do, you've got some pretty cool stuff right there. Speaking of cool stuff, we have the next activity of our panel discussion today, and that's going to be to hear more from you. So in service of the discussion that's to come, I'm looking at the clock, it says 15:47. I'm going to have you all go off camera, click the link in the chat, and spend 300 seconds letting yourself see your responses to this Mentimeter. A couple of things about this. It is anonymous. So for the panelists, I'll have you do this as well, because I want your words to be seen by you later. And for everybody who's participating today, the invitation is clear. You click the link in the chat. I'll put that one more time for someone who just joined us. I'm going to ask us to turn our videos off. That gives you time by yourself so that you can think. It increases the distance between thought and response. You're not on the screen. Oh, and it helps a little bit with that Zoom fatigue stuff. So we'll stop our videos. We'll fill out the Mentimeter. I'll ask everyone to turn their videos back on at 15:52. We'll see you when you get back, friends. All righty, friends. So as we head into this next small group discussion, for these next 10 minutes, when you're in your small groups, the invitation is open to start your video and then to lean into that camera. Some of you have had some deep conversations. Some of you have shared and listened back and forth. So how this will work is in the chat, you now have access to the results that are running in real time. And these will continue to be added for the panelists. If you want to share this Mentimeter, you got 13 more days. I've set it up so that you can continue sharing this if you want. But this gives you a nice pulse check on what this community of 39 folks has to say. So let's do this. Give me a thumbs up if you're able to click that results link. Make sure that you've got that. If you'll turn your cameras on, I'm in gallery view. Look around and see who you need to be that you have not been in a group with yet. Smile at them. Who knows? They might actually be in your group. All right, friends, here's the deal. You're going to have 10 minutes. I put a sample prompt in the chat. I know you'll use that as a point of departure, but here's where you could start. What is the product of the product? What is the outcome of gaming? What are the results? We're going to see you back here in about 10 minutes. Make some awkward eye contact. Everybody wave goodbye. And we'll see you in a little bit. Panelists, we now have some time to share just with the YouTube and Facebook communities. And I know that as the minutes were clicking by in that first 15, you were kind of thinking, wow, do we have enough time? Am I using too much time? But I'm wondering, did you watch anyone as you were sharing? Did you watch anyone as your colleagues were sharing? What'd you notice when you were watching people as you or your colleagues were sharing?
I can't exactly say that I was as open as I am to talking about things like these. It still kind of takes me to uncomfortable places, and I shut everything down around me.
Thanks for sharing, brother.
So I actually saw a lot of like nods and agreement. I mean, I think a lot of people can like relate to what we're saying.
Jessica, give me 2 more sentences and change the pronoun to I, not we.
Well, this is my community, so I definitely feel relatable to all the people here. But I also saw like out into the gallery that people were also getting hyped about it. And so that's what I'm excited about.
Did you guys notice how her smile changed when she shared the second time? That was pretty cool. What else?
I was primarily focused on chat, so I wasn't paying attention to people's faces too much. I know when I was sharing, though, I actually started to tear up a little bit, which is a big deal for me. Not that I'm like a hard person or anything, but I generally don't tear up about that sort of thing. But one of the things that does get me to tear up is thinking about people coming together to support someone else, like the Overwatch 2 trailer. And so that was surprising to me.
So I watched the entire the crowd. Obviously, I've heard most of these folks talk before. Some of the stories are different, but I've at least interacted in a little bit to maybe understand them a little bit better. This is my first time, chatting it up with Jessica, and Bryce and I have talked before, but not necessarily on this specific topic. So trying to maintain a smile on my face as I'm looking at the crowd, listening to their stories, and I'm like, everyone can see my face. So if I start start tearing up, then everyone else is going to, or at least that's what I like to believe. But same thing. It was a whole lot of north and south. It was great.
For me, it was like overwhelming because, I'm like speaking to like a lot of people. So every, speaking every time I have to speak in public, there's like, always gives me butterflies in my stomach. So, but it's fun to like see the reaction of all the people from the crowd. So about sharing my story, so, and the reactions. So.
That's wonderful. So I'm gonna take one of the Mentimeter prompts that you wrote that went out to 25 people replied to this one. First off, 25 people. I'm going to show it to you, but I'm also going to direct it straight into their breakout rooms. So we don't know what they're talking about right now, but I'm going to radically interrupt them. Those of you on Facebook or YouTube, I hope that you can see, but will you five take a look at this for a moment? Let I don't know, give yourself like 15 seconds. And here's what people said. Describe how gaming has impacted your life.
Well, I would point out, I think it's interesting. So not everybody's a gamer, and that's easy to identify with. That's very understandable. But the fact that folks are recognizing that it's impacting other people's lives and either empowering it or just having that awareness that it has a positive impact on someone around them, I think that's really easy to pick out of here.
Yeah, maybe this is just the way I'm seeing things, but there are a few negative comments or people that have had negative experiences with it. And just as I was already looking at the other responses, just as some people seemed hesitant, or I saw some people said that they've had negative experiences with gaming, or it's a negative escape. Sorry. I do wonder if maybe coming at it, we've all sort of approached it with a different perspective. And I think that the way we as a community have kind of approached it has been pretty positive, but maybe some people haven't given it the second chance to approach it from a similar perspective that we have.
This is me expanding the time between thought and response, giving you the moment to breathe. Douglas, we'll go with you, and then we'll get to one more.
I just wanted to agree with Bryce here. I've noted in a couple of these speaking engagements that it seems there's always a few who have negative thoughts about it, but and want to steer people away from it even, and not so much here. Definitely there seems to be a lot more open thought about it, but just continuing that engagement is hugely important to help people overcome their prejudices for it. And yeah, we need to keep going with that to help people understand how positive it can be. And yes, there can be negatives with it as well. Everything needs to be handled in moderation to be healthy. But we gotta help continue to push so that people don't just focus on that potential negatives.
If you study the way that the folks of the admin team for FFIT put together the symposium today, you'll see that the previous panel was on holistic wellness. And I don't see anything but irony that there were things that people wrote about how people take care of themselves that, if done to an abundance, can actually be a detriment. It's fascinating to watch how these two panels, as different as they might seem to the naked eye, but it's that what are the limits? How do we engage? How do we have the conversation? I'm curious. You've been in this game, Mike. You and I have crossed paths along the way. You've been in this game long enough that you've seen your leaders cycle out of the units that you're in. If you had the vision out into the next, do you see an energy moving that's different? Do you see a space that's moving that's different? It's kind of a leading question, but I'm curious. When you look back 5 years and you look ahead 5 years, is there a difference?
I'll tell you, 10 years ago, being a gamer was almost taboo. That was for the comm nerds, that was for the Intel nerds and everything like that. So, but today, in the present day, I think being a gamer is becoming much more culturally accepted. And I think some folks play video games or are a gamer and don't really consider it so much. If you play Candy Crush, you're totally a gamer. So congratulations. But 5 years ago, same thing. It's just been a growing trend, and I think as we continue towards a digital age, the digital service of the United States Space Force, and just finding that the future is VR and AR and all these things. It's beginning to be a little bit more accepted by senior leaders, and the ones that don't accept it either realize that it is here to stay, so they're not necessarily trying to stop it. But they're obviously not trying to champion it as well. And eventually, we'll get there. I think the future is bright, and we'll win out. I got 6 more years, so I'll keep riding this train to make sure the voices are heard.
Last 5 years, next 5 years. What's the difference you're seeing?
So the next 5 years.
It was somebody else.
Oh, somebody else. Fine. Someone else talk.
Yeah.
I am one of those Intel comm nerds. And I remember 5 years ago when I got on station, going through the dorms, and it'd be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and you'd hear yelling at their computers or TVs on the other side of the doors as you're walking to the DFAC, and I know a lot of people would say, like, well, why aren't you going out and, going to the club or, whatever it may be. But nope, all of us Intel comm nerds were locked away in our rooms. And taking to the leadership perspective, I have had leadership that has been very open to it, but I've had other leadership that's more like not as in tune with it. And I think that just comes with like a generational thing, because I'm 10, 15 years off from a lot of my leadership. And this is like, I would consider myself part of the generation where gaming is kind of our childhood. And I think it is just sort of like, as things progress, it's becoming more and more normalized, not only because more people are doing it, but because people that grew up doing it are now being more and more put in positions of authority.
I think now, like the future, the new wave of airmen and guardians that are coming in to the force are, gamers, and we need to revolutionize the way we train and develop our airmen. And gaming is an approach that we could take. And I know there's still backlash from leadership about it, but we need to adapt and improvise with the way we train. And there are valuable lessons that we can take from games, not just video games. It can be board games or any other games for that matter.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you for all of the discussion groups who went into their small breakout rooms and came back. Of course, this will be our last discussion closeout for the day until I hand it over to the team there at Andrews. But let's do this. Will you all reach down to the reactions tab and send your small group a reaction? What are you coming back from those 11 minutes with? And as we start to move this toward a closing, I want to make sure that we really foot stomp, we really stand on the foundation, we take that next step on the stairwell or the ladder. But there's something resident for this community about what you see FFIT being able to do for you. And so I'm going to ask the panelists, you've been around this, you prepared for this, you got to see the results. But what do you think FFIT, the larger organization, Fortify the Force Initiative team, what do you see FFIT being able to do? This will be your last share before we call it a day. What do you see FFIT being able to do? See, Mike, I'm not Air Force, so I think that means you want to go first.
I'll jump on this. So Senior Master Sergeant Hatley put it exactly how I feel, redefine what mental health in the military looks like. When Mike mentioned FIT to me some weeks ago, I looked into it and saw exactly what was going on. And this jumped out to me as such a great idea because still in so many different, not just the Air Force and Space Force, but as I said earlier, I spent so much of my career assigned to the Army. We're not getting the right mental health care for our service members. There's still too many.
Douglas, I'm going to jump in on you, brother. Let's stop at what you see it being able to do. All right.
All right. That's so sorry. I beat around the bush and things, but I want to see it normalize it for the service.
There we go. Who's next?
I'd follow along the same route, more or less, in the idea that encouraging within units and within, Air Force that this is another avenue of connection, from leadership down to their people. I know dodgeball is a lot of fun, or ultimate frisbee or whatever, but we can play board party games or whatever with our people as well. And I think that's something we can encourage.
Thank you, sir. Who's up? There's only 3 of you left.
I think we could use.
All right, I'll go. I'll go ahead. Go ahead, Tommy.
We'll go Jessica, Lawrence, Mike. What do you see FIT being in the position to do?
I think because FIT is primarily started by Airmen and Guardians, I think we're able to take ownership into how this is going to play out. I believe that with us buying into it and having ownership of it, we can help make change.
Thank you. Lawrence and then Mike.
I think this FIT's a good resource to have, especially, as we delve into the multi-capable airmen. So we need to be more, I think, building resiliency is critical in these times.
Thank you, sir.
So FIT's building teams and trying to conquer challenges and initiatives and whatnot. And I think gaming is just another part of the toolkit. So keep it on your utility belt and get ready to use it at a moment's notice.
And for everyone who has attended the psychological safety panel, listened, you typed, and you shared, what do you see FIT being able to do or giving? Chris, I'm going to get a few people to type theirs in, and then I'm going to hand the microphone over to you. Can we unspotlight our panel and spotlight the FIT team camera, please? Folks, as we lose our panelists, they're going to go down on your screen. We're going to get the FIT team to come up. Please give one last round of applause to the panelists for this one. Throw a reaction if you'd like. And sir, I'm going to hand the microphone over to the Smart Center Awesomeness. Thank you.
We're hot over here. So, hey, first off, I just want to say, wow, a lot of great information today. Today was essential to everything we're going to do as FIT as we move forward. I say over the last maybe 5 or 6 months, there's been a lot of work behind the scene trying to figure out how do we get after this holistically to make sure we're taking care of our airmen, guardians, and family members. So a lot of behind the scene work, but today is kind of like that foundational movement, because the testimonies that we heard today from people sharing some of those vulnerable moments throughout their careers and throughout life definitely is making sure that folks understand that we got some work we got to do. And so today was very instrumental in preparing us to transition to tomorrow, where we'll start getting to some of those working group efforts on some of the things that we're doing to try to improve and make things better. I'm going to tell you, bottom line is we need you, right? So all these things that we talked about, if you take a look in the chat room and look at Wayne's screenshot, you'll see the QR codes and you'll see our efforts. If you screenshot those, it'll give you the links to take you into our workspace. right? Well, you can see the places that we're operating at as far as fit. But I'm gonna tell you, we need you. We heard a lot of great information today, a lot of passion out there. We've got folks that got some skills as well within the audience out there as well. So we need you. So definitely scan those barcodes, take a look at some of those efforts and initiative teams that we have going on, and sign up. You know, bring that same energy that you gave us today into this fit fold and help us out to help each other, because we need you. I want to give a shout out to JW. Brother, you did a phenomenal job today. I mean, we talked about it. It's tough to be in a room with people trying to orchestrate something, let alone from a virtual space and having different panelist groups come on and off. So a quick round of applause for our JW for guiding us today. Also, another shout out to our leaders, you know, our champions, SimSAF and SimSIF, as busy as they are, taking time out of their day to come here and dial in virtually to let us know how important this is. They made time for us. So definitely thank them for their time. To my co-leads over here on the side, all the effort and time we put into this, along with the rest of the FIT teammates that are here and out there in virtual space, thank you all as well. Also to our recruiters top three, they got us hooked up with these mugs that you see back here, kind of Gucci, but real nice. We were walking around with them all day. But I was like, what's FIT? Well, come in here and check it out. So I've been using them for marketing, but to our recruiters top three, thank y'all so much for that contribution as well. So team, again, quick wrap up from today, a lot of great testimony. I think we got to make sure that people know it's cool to have these kind of discussions, right? Like it's a safe space where folks can come and let them know that they got things on their mind, on their heart, things that are bothering them. It could be something that's new or something that's dated, but it's important for us to be able to communicate those things and challenges that we're having. So then we can see how can we knock down those barriers or move those resources around so we can make sure we're taking care of our people. So again, team, to the audience, thank y'all so much. To our panelists, thank y'all as well for dialing in. Today was a phenomenal event, but we're looking forward to tomorrow as well. So if you go over and take a look, I had Wayne go in and drop our email address. If you, for some reason you didn't have the links and stuff you need for tomorrow to be able to get into those work groups and stuff like that, just send an email to that email address box. And what we'll do is we'll make sure we get back to you with the information you need for tomorrow. So again, team, thank y'all so much. We truly appreciate you. And JW, I'll kick it back over to you to wrap us up.
All right, folks. So yeah, you got to stop doing that. I need you all to click the gallery view, right? You are the program. This is about you and for you, and what beautifulness we've got going on. So here's the deal. If this were a reunion, if we were in person, I wouldn't just kick you all out. We'd have what's called the after party. So I'm going to remove, I'm going to get rid of my screen. Here you are. Welcome to where the magic has been happening all day from Montgomery, Alabama. Look, 39 months ago, my life changed. Jody and I, we picked up, we left California, we lived in the hills of Santa Barbara, and we moved to Montgomery, Alabama so that we could do this with you. After party, what's that? Well, usually someone would probably bring some music in, and then they would create little breakout rooms. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you've got breakouts open. If you want to go have a discussion with a couple of folks, you can do that. If you want to stay here and ask us anything that you want about FIT, you can do that. If you know you got to go, well, we're going to see you tomorrow. I will be the last one to leave this room, not going anywhere. So if anybody wants to stay a little bit, you can join a breakout room with some friends, or we can have a little cross-talk conversation right here. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful, wonderful day. After party has begun.
Hey team, I made my virtual background these QR codes. So if it's challenging to see, click on my profile, make it a little bit bigger, take a picture with your phone, and get involved.
Now the breakout rooms are there. Gotta watch you.
Dr. J, I unfortunately won't be able to attend tomorrow. I have to return to my civilian employment, and so I will be missing it, but I'm looking forward to the recordings.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
You're
Stay in touch with your friends, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I just want to say, I didn't really know what to expect with this, but it has been phenomenal. I didn't expect all the vulnerability. I didn't expect, I didn't know what to expect with the panels. But hearing all this, I think I have 12 pages of notes from today, where I just wrote as people talked and things that they said and how things made them feel. And I'm so impressed, and I am so excited to see what we do with FIT, because this just day one has just been amazing. So thank you. Thank all of you. And thank you, JW, for you kept us engaged for sure. I do want to see all of our vacation photos. Definitely.
Hey, that's some good stuff right there.
Excellent facilitation. I was impressed.
That's where they go.
That's kind of cool. You actually have a whole wall of all your photos. Oh, we're going to be famous.
The pandemic started and I was alone in my office all the time. So I just surrounded myself by friends.
I like it. I like it. This was very enlightening for sure. So thank you.
Here's the rhetorical prompt. Are you ready? You don't get to answer it. You ready?
Yep.
If we had told you what we were going to do today, would you have showed up? Bring that.
I do want to answer that, but I won't.
You're a good student. Bring that back to your airmen and guardians. I actually think people want this more than we think they want this.
Yeah. Hey, team, real quick. So, hey, Alicia, just to your point, and some context for the team. So with FIT, right now we've got about maybe 10 different initiative teams. We've got working groups that on the side is getting out the stuff. So I'm gonna tell you, almost daily, there's some type of FIT meeting or a huddle or something going on. So I just want to make y'all aware of the battle rhythm, that there's always something going on. So it's not like you're waiting like once a month to be able to link up. It's almost daily that one of our initiative teams are syncing up via Zoom and things like that to be able to get out the different initiatives. So again, we need y'all. So this energy y'all got, we want y'all to really get on and get to those QR codes and get involved. Because again, you're not gonna have to wait around for a long time before this happens again. It's almost daily that there's something going on. So if y'all are motivated, you want to get involved, we need you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And, I will say, I think you're right. I think people do want this more than we realize. Just the sitting around talking, and even with us having our faces and our names on here, that vulnerability was still there. And I think that we crave that more than we realize, and being able to have that connection that I'm not the only person going through what I'm going through.
Definitely. And I think as well with, we still have it? Yeah, we still have it. I think as well, the testimonies that we heard today, again, because sometimes people look and say, well, hey, what's the need? Like, why are we doing FIT? What's the need behind it? And I think the testimonies that we heard today, we know why we need FIT. And we know why FIT is so important. When we say FIT, we're talking about us. We need us to come together and be able to get out to some of these things and figure out some solutions that can take care of the poor. So those testimonies today were so spot on. I mean, I was looking at some of y'all's nonverbals when you heard some of these stories that were being shared. I mean, it hit home, I think, for all of us, right? But I think today really answered the mail on why FIT is so important, why we need folks to roll their sleeves back and get involved so we can make this right. So, and you see, we got the champions, right? We got SimSAF and SimSIF. They got our back 100%, but we just got to make sure, as we talk about, myself and my two teammates over here, we always talk about, we got to make sure we can put the science behind it. You know, we can't just say that, hey, hey, we see a problem and we think it's a problem at this one base. We got to be able to do a little bit of data analysis and put some science behind it to say, yes, we have a holistic problem. And here's why we need to get after certain things. So, but Tim, I'm gonna get off the mic. Hey, thank y'all so much. We're here for you. We need you. And just let us know what we can do to help y'all out and get y'all involved.
Hey, watch this. I know some of you have to go. Watch this. This is what people want. You ready for this? Countdown, 3, 2. Don't you tell me that that's not just pretty. Come on, right?
Yeah, we need those pictures. Those are going up at my office.
$14 a copy and ship them overnight.
Well, that's okay. I still want some of the FFIT swag that I keep seeing our leaders having, the coffee mugs and all that.
What do you call it? Gucci?
Gucci.
I think is what, yeah, that's what he said.
We need Gucci swag. No, this was awesome. And I can't wait for tomorrow. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Rest well. Go get 14 more pieces of paper.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Alicia.
Debbie, I just want to say thank you. You did a phenomenal job facilitating today. And, to the people that stepped up and spoke, that was a level of candor that I completely was not prepared for, because I've just, as I told some of the people in the breakout rooms, JJ asked me to become involved with this because I have a lot of experience with service-related trauma and PTSD, but in the law enforcement field, not in the military field. So I come at this from a little bit different perspective. So I know I'm just starting to get my cops coming around talking about this. So I figured military is never going to speak as openly as I saw today. So that I was pretty blown away by. And the other real takeaway for me from today, a lot of what we're doing in the law enforcement field crosses over to the military, but yet there's other things that we've been doing for years that the military has never really even heard about. So there's really a good opportunity here for some knowledge sharing and to get some new initiatives going.
Thank you, brother. Are you coming to a working group tomorrow?
I'll be here in the afternoon. I'm tied up in the morning, but I'll be here for the afternoon session.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.